Good morning, everybody. It is time for our big NFL Live Before Lock show, and there's no Sunday morning football game, not just for today, but actually for the rest of the season. So this is going to be the Sunday morning show schedule for the remainder of the time here. I'm on for 45 minutes looking at the initial projections and building lineups with you guys on DraftKings and FanDuel. Then you're going to have for an hour and a half Ben and Laufey on the deep dive, followed by Spags and Eric on the Live Before Lock final portion for an hour and a half, where they look at any of the final late breaking news, projection and ownership updates, their final exposures, answering guys' questions, all that good stuff. So let's strap in. Guys, do me a favor, like the video, subscribe to the YouTube channel if you have not already, because it's time to start the show here. And you guys know the deal as well. If you have a lineup that you want me to build for you, or you have a lineup that you've built, you want me to check the sim ROI, you want some input on your lineup, either leave me a super chat with that lineup, or if you are a Stokastic sub and you're in our Discord channel, tag me in Discord and I'll be looking for any of those questions and we'll plug your lineups into the single lineup sims and give them an evaluation. Let's go. Let's look at projections, beginning with the quarterback position. And we've got a lot of good QB options. The only one QB who is not an option that Laufey and I were able to talk about towards the tail end of the week, that's Joe Burrow. It looked like he was trending towards returning. We saw a lot of line movement in favor of the Cincinnati Bengals, only for Joe Burrow to end up getting ruled out, and the line immediately moved back to the Patriots being favored by 7.5 points. I think that line moved as low as 5, maybe 4.5, because there was an expectation Burrow was going to play, but ultimately not the case. It's Flacco still a quarterback, at least for another week. But 4 QBs projected for at least 22 fantasy points in our projections: Pat Mahomes, Drake Maye, Jalen Hurts, Lamar Jackson. They're all pretty expensive as well, $6,600 to $6,900. So an abundance of good pay-up options for the slate. Ownership at the position, we've got Mahomes, Brissett, Maye, and Jared Goff in a good matchup against the Giants. All of them are just above 10% owned. There's no crazy chalk at the quarterback position. Also, a pretty good mix of price ranges here, right? We've got Mahomes at $6,800 as a popular QB, Drake Maye at $6,900, and then you've got Jacoby Brissett, who just destroyed the slate last week. NFL record 47 completions, and you got big games from him. You got a big game from Trey McBride, Michael Wilson, and Greg Dortch, who caught a late touchdown in garbage time. So as a result, you saw just a ton of triple stack Jacoby Brissett lineups at the top of GPPs, including one of our subs that won $1 million with the Jacoby Brissett triple stack. I'm pretty sure this is the, oh no, this isn't even the right. We've had so many different Milley Maker winners over the course of the season. We're up to 4 now, that we've got a bunch of different screenshots labeled in here as Milley Maker wins, and I don't even know which one is the most recent one because of the abundance of Milley wins that we've had. But it's been a great season for the tools, and we saw last week another Milley Maker winner using the Stokastic avatar, one of our subs. So if you guys do want to get on board and use our data, like we saw the Jacoby Brissett triple stacks, sign up for any of our links down below in the YouTube description box, or take advantage of our link join offer. But let's go ahead and look at some of the rest of the QB projections and the rest of them. Points per dollar. Brissett, Tyler Shuck, who's actually looked not terrible for the Saints. It's relative, though, right? The bar was so low in terms of nothing was expected out of the Saints offense or him really in general, but he has progressively looked better in each of his starts. He shows up a little bit in the sims as well. But Tyler Shuck, yeah, he's got one of the better points per dollar projections in our data. Then you got Pat Mahomes and Trevor Lawrence here as well. Running back position, what do we got here? So at running back, we've got Bijan Robinson and Jahmyr Gibbs, both projecting for 23.5 fantasy points. Nobody who's got like the Christian McCaffrey projection for us from last week, where you guys saw McCaffrey last week was projected for like 26 to 27 fantasy points for us throughout the week. We've got some good-looking running backs on the high end, just not quite as strong as what we've seen on some other recent slates, but still. Robinson, Jahmyr Gibbs project pretty well. Then you got Jonathan Taylor just over 20 fantasy points. It's worth noting, Josh Jacobs, questionable, and going to be a game time decision. So that game starts at 1 p.m. Eastern time, but we're not going to know the status of Josh Jacobs from what we've seen reported for probably a couple hours or something like that. So maybe tail end of the deep dive or doing live before lock until we get a Josh Jacobs update. The reason I wanted to bring that up here is you see right now, we have Emmanuel Wilson projected as the starting running back for Green Bay, but that's guesswork at best right now. We really don't know what the status of Jacobs is at the moment. It seems like a true 50-50 decision, but in the event that he truly is out, Emmanuel Wilson, one of your better value plays at the running back position at $5,300. He is 20% owned. We've got Jahmyr Gibbs, 28% owned, and then Chase Brown, 31% owned. So Chase Brown, earlier in the week when we thought Joe Burrow was going to start, he was projected for nearly 40% ownership. Now that it's back to Flacco, the projection in ownership has come down a little bit on Chase Brown. But with that said, still the highest projected owned running back at the position, and also still the best value play, points per dollar at the position, just not quite as strong as what it was a few days ago when we thought it was going to be Joe Burrow. But Chase Brown, Jahmyr Gibbs, Emmanuel Wilson, Bijan Robinson, those are your top 4 points per dollar running backs, and also just happen to be the 4 most popular running backs as well. At wide receiver now, what do we got at wide out? Wide receiver, the 2 top-end wideouts for us. Number 1, JSN. He is on pace to break the single season receiving yards record. Just a massive, massive season for JSN to this point. We've got Amon-Ra St. Brown for 21.5 fantasy points. Then there's a pretty big drop-off because we go from 22 fantasy points for JSN, 21.5 for Amon-Ra St. Brown, down to 19 for Rashee Rice, then 17 for CeeDee Lamb, and then just under 17 for T. Higgins. He is going to be playing, obviously, in the absence of Jamar Chase. Jamar Chase suspended for what appeared to be spitting on Jalen Ramsey, or near Jalen Ramsey, during a dispute that they had last weekend. Ownership at wide receiver, Amon-Ra St. Brown, your most popular wideout by a pretty wide margin. 33% ownership going to Amon-Ra St. Brown, and only one other wideout is even more than 20% owned. That's Michael Wilson. Massive game for him last week, and he is once again positioned to have a big game because there is no Marvin Harrison. He had an appendectomy a couple weeks ago. That's why we saw Michael Wilson be one of the top points per dollar projected plays last week. Ended up coming to fruition where he just had a massive game where we absolutely had to have him, and he isn't priced up enough. He's still only $4,800, so Michael Wilson looks like a good option. Again, 22% owned, but not nearly the ownership on Amon-Ra St. Brown. Then you've got 16.7% ownership going to JSN, 16.5% ownership going to Jameson Williams. So you see, that's why we had Jared Goff is popular. I don't know why I said question. I didn't say popular. Jared Goff is popular. Jahmyr Gibbs is popular. Amon-Ra St. Brown is popular. And Jameson Williams is popular. The lines are going to be chalk against the Giants for today. Onslaught stacks are definitely viable. Points per dollar at the wide receiver position, we've got Michael Wilson, Amon-Ra St. Brown, Jacoby Myers, another week with no Brian Thomas, Romeo Doubs, Jameson Williams, Chris Olave, your best points per dollar wide receivers in our projections. And then the tight end spot, I mean, look at the gap between Trey McBride and everybody else. 20.5 fantasy points for Trey McBride. Brock Bowers, who's looked pretty good since coming back from his knee injury, 15.5 fantasy point projections. There are 5 fantasy points separating Trey McBride and all of the rest of the tight ends on the slate. Then you get Kelsey, Tyler Warren, Kyle Pitts, all of them also for 12 to 14 fantasy points. Ownership, you've got 28% on Trey McBride. Then the only other 2 tight ends that are double-digit owned, Travis Kelsey and Mark Andrews. Our top points per dollar plays at tight end, Trey McBride, Mike Gesicki, Travis Kelsey, Kyle Pitts, Mark Andrews, Juwan Johnson. There's a litany of good tight end options for this slate. So let's start building some lineups. And I don't think we have, no super chats yet. So I'm just going to build with some of the stuff that I like to build around and let you guys know kind of what looks best overall, in my opinion, for some of the maybe like small field stuff or just tournament quarterbacks and stacks that I want to be a little bit more heavily exposed to. So what do we want to do to start here at the quarterback position? First lineup that I want to try building out here, let's go to a Jalen Hurts stack. Not all that popular. Jalen Hurts, well, I should say Jalen Hurts is 9% owned. Some of his pass catchers aren't all that popular going up against the Cowboys. This is going to be a later game. So throughout the season, what have we seen? If a team is going up against the Cowboys, the passing game gets jammed. But that is not happening this week against the Dallas Cowboys, and there's a few reasons for it. Number one, there's just a lot of negative overall coverage of the Eagles in terms of locker room issues, and then also The passing game, it's been inconsistent this year. But with that said, there's upside here. And also, I should mention on the Cowboys side of the game, they did get better at the trade deadline. They brought in Quinnen Williams, one of the better tackles that we have in the entire NFL. So as a result, yes, the Cowboys defense is better than what they were earlier in the year, where we saw just everybody in the league passing all over them. I still don't think this is a great Dallas Cowboys defense, though. And we could get Devonta Smith is 13% owned. You've got A.J. Brown, 12% owned. And then I'm not going to include him in this as well, but I like Saquon Barkley as a somewhat contrarian running back option as well at 10% owned. It just seems like because the Cowboys defense has been not quite as bad in recent games, paired with some of the negative coverage and some of the bad headlines we've seen about the Eagles, that people just don't really want to be stacking up this offense. And I think the upside is massive. So I like this as a contrarian double stack. Jalen Hurts to Devonta Smith and A.J. Brown. And then we'll build out the rest of the lineup with some of the more popular plays and guys also that we're going to need to save some salary with. So like Chase Brown at running back, he's somebody who's going to be in a lot of lineups for me. And for the purposes of building lineups here, we've got Emmanuel Wilson projected to start for the Packers in our projections. He projects really well. Like I said before, it's up in the air what's going to end up happening there. But at least for now, I'm planning on playing a good portion of Emmanuel Wilson. The last Sims run I did, I had him in about a third of my lineup. So let's go Jalen Hurts, Chase Brown, Emmanuel Wilson, save some salary. And now let's see, what are some of the good, cheap defenses that we have for the slate? We've got the Saints are very cheap at $2,500. Kirk Cousins has looked crazy, crazy wash. I know the Saints defense sucks, but are they worse than what Kirk Cousins has been when we've seen Kirk Cousins play? I think it's the last 8 games that Kirk Cousins has played in, he has a total of 1 touchdown pass. It's something like that. If I have the number wrong, it's either like 7 games or 9 games, but I'm pretty sure it's the last 8 games that he's appeared in, 1 touchdown pass for Kirk Cousins. Saints defense, the top points per dollar defense for us, just for the purpose of making these lineups a little bit more fun to build here and me being generally indifferent towards defenses. Let's just go to the Saints defense to save us some salary. And that would give us the wide receiver, the tight end, and the flex positions remaining with 59.67. So I'm just going to put this on 10% randomness now, have it complete the lineup. Let's see. We got double tight ends, Trey McBride and Brock Bowers, and then Michael Wilson showed up as well. Okay. Hurts, Brown, Wilson, Devonta Smith, A.J. Brown, Trey McBride, Brock Bowers, Saints defense. I like this. Let's see how it sims out. I don't know that our data likes the Eagles passing game quite as much as I do, but I'm interested to say, all right, came out good. 72.4% sim ROI. So that's what we got here from the Eagles. I see we've got a super chat here. We've got one from Brandon wants us to make a Goff +4 onslaught. Yeah, let's do it. That's an interesting lineup, Bill. Goff +4. So presumably, I know you didn't tell me who it is you want in the lineup, but I'm going to make an educated guess that you want to go to Goff, Jahmyr Gibbs, Amon-Ra St. Brown, and Jameson Williams. Those are the guys who we generally consider stacking Goff with. But let's just go to our projections here also. And who else would even be considered potentially viable in our projections? Montgomery, although Montgomery, I don't know that I really want to include in a stack. Doesn't really have much passing game upside. Yeah, it would really just be those 4 that we'd include. All right, so let's go to, he wanted Goff +4. Okay. I didn't realize that. I was thinking just Goff +3. All right, so let's fit one more guy from the Lions in here then. Boy, who do we want it to be? Let's sort by projection. I don't want it to be Montgomery. Brock Wright, Khalif Raymond. I prefer to be the triple stack. I prefer the Gibbs, Amon-Ra St. Brown, and Jameson Williams. But if it has to be another guy, I guess we'll go Brock Wright. Sam Laporta, back surgery. It appears he's going to be out for the year. Who knows? Maybe make a deep playoff run and he's going to be able to return like to the NFC Championship or the Super Bowl. But the reports are that Laporta is going to be out for the year. So I guess Brock Wright would be the final guy that I plug in. I do question his upside, especially when the tight end position is pretty strong for today. But we've got from Brandon really wants us to make a Goff +4 onslaught. So what does it give us? 47.50 left for the rest of the spots. At least with Brock Wright, he is cheap, and that's going to help us from a standpoint of being able to save a little bit of salary. Let's see if we go to the Saints defense again, $5,500 left for a running back, wider. Okay. So then let's go Emmanuel Wilson for $5,300. Let's go Michael Wilson at $4,800. And then who projects the best? I'm going to press this, just show affordable players. That'll take everybody out of the projections that doesn't fit in the lineup salary-wise. Is it really David? Okay, no, never mind. I just wasn't scrolled all the way up. I was like, no way. All right. I thought David Montgomery was the best projected player that fit. That's not the case. All right, we go Chase Brown. That fits pretty easy. So Goff, Gibbs, Emmanuel Wilson, Amon-Ra St. Brown, Jameson Williams, Michael Wilson, Brock Wright, Chase Brown, Saints defense. So we did fill out this lineup with a lot of the chalk options remaining. But with that said, I don't think this Lions +4 stack is going to be popular to the point where we have to really concern ourselves with the other guys who fit in the lineup. But let's run the sim and see how it looks. And then I see we got a couple of other questions here as well that we'll get to after this lineup is done simming. I think this will come out, yeah, good. 68.1% sim ROI. Nice. All right, so that's viable. I have a feeling, I just want to try this. Let's just take Brock Wright out. Let's see what the triple stack looks like. If we took Brock Wright out and then remove some of these other pieces, and then just have the optimizer complete it for us, what shows up? McBride, Gesicki. All right. So a lot of the same guys, but McBride and Gesicki ended up showing up in the lineup. Let's just see how it sims out with the triple stack and removing Brock Wright from the equation. Yeah, that came out a lot better. So this isn't to say that the +4 stack was invalid because it still came out positive, but the triple stack does look a lot better. So the +4 might be a little bit of overkill, and we got better results for making a Lions triple stack, which is still a ton of correlation for the Lions and looking for that blowout there. Smoothie, who do I like of the Jets receivers, if any? Let me see. Do I have any sort of Jets exposure? I don't. I mean, like, if I had to pick somebody, which good thing is we don't. One of the rules of DFS is not you must roster a Jets player every Sunday. If it was, that would be a terrible experience if we just had to roster a Jets pass catcher every Sunday. If I have to pick one, though, I'm going to go with Adonai Mitchell, which I don't feel great about because he apparently can't catch a football. Right? We saw him last week, which I believe that was the Thursday night football game. A couple of times he gets open and just was not able to haul in a perfectly thrown pass by Fields last week. So Adonai Mitchell, he's cheap at $3,200. I do think he has upside as an NFL player. His odds of reaching that upside, he makes so many boneheaded mistakes to where it just seems like he loses focus and just stops paying attention for large stretches of games. But he's talented. If he could actually catch a football, we would have seen him with a couple of big plays last week. If I have to pick one, it's him at $3,200. But on my last run of lineups, I only have him in 2 out of 150 lineups. But your question is, do I like any of them? In general, no. If I had to pick one, it's Adonai Mitchell. We've got Brendan Bayron here. Riding with Ben on the Tuesday show, can we see a Trevor Lawrence plus Myers plus Washington stack? Absolutely. Let's go with a Jacksonville Jaguars double stack with Trevor Lawrence. And then we've got Parker Washington and Jacoby Myers. I do not dislike this lineup build at all. We've got Jacoby Myers is $4,700. I like the matchup against the Cardinals as well. And then you've got Parker Washington. He's reasonably priced as well at $5,200. I do prefer Jacoby Myers to Parker Washington, but still, I think both of them look fine. Let's run it back with Michael Wilson. Actually, let's make a full game stack out of this to have fun. Let's go Michael Wilson, and let's go Trey McBride as well. So we've got Lawrence, double stack, running it back with Wilson and McBride. And now let's just complete the lineup around these players. See what else shows up from the optimizer. We've got Gibbs, Chase Brown, Chris Olave in the Saints defense to go with the game stack we made, which is Trevor Lawrence, Parker Washington, Michael Wilson, Jacoby Myers, Trey McBride. Let's see how this game stack looks. individually, I do like all of the players that are in this lineup. I don't think it's going to be like 100 plus sim ROI, but yeah, solid 94.1. It's viable, Brendan. It looks good. Smoothie, is Wilson a must play if Jacobs is out? Not a fan. It's very rare that somebody's a must play in NFL DFS. No. Is he a good play? Yeah. I'd say he's a very good play. Is he a must play? No. I mean, look at this lineup we just built out here. It's got a 94.1% sim ROI, and it doesn't have him in it. You could certainly build good lineups that don't have Emmanuel Wilson. Now, if you're playing a bunch of lineups, Smoothie, 20 plus or something like that, I think that it would be a mistake to play 0% of Emmanuel Wilson, but he doesn't have to be in all your lineups. If you're just playing one lineup also, he certainly doesn't have to be in it. Good play. But look here, we've got him at, what was it, 20% projected ownership? I think that was the number, if I remember correctly. Yeah, 20.57. 80% of the field isn't playing him. Definitely viable to build lineups without him. Let's look at FanDuel. We've got V44NYC FanDuel lineup for a 30-man league leaning on a Cardinal stack. All right, so one thing I'm going to say about something like a 30-man league, don't worry about being contrarian, right? Still probably want to get I don't know what the payout structure is for that contest. You know, obviously, all I know is that it's a 30-man FanDuel league, but I'd play that pretty similar to a cash game with a little bit of correlation. But let's go to Jacoby Brissett. Let's go to Michael Wilson. And now, like, you don't have to say, like, oh, I need to have any low-owned guys or anything. Don't worry about being contrarian in a 30-man league. All right, let's go and look at some of the top points per dollar options that we have for FanDuel. And Chase Brown's still going to fit into this lineup pretty well. I think that Jahmyr Gibbs also somebody who you're going to want to play in a 30-man league. Let's see, the wide receiver position. Actually, let's go to defense. Let's just plug in the Saints again here, 3,200. Make sure we're getting ourselves a good idea of what the salary remaining is. All right, so 6,800. Let's see. Who else do we want to go to at wide receiver? Who is reasonably priced on FanDuel? Let's plug in Stefon Diggs, who I do think looks better on FanDuel than he does on DraftKings. Not that he's not playable on DraftKings. I just think he's a little bit more favorable on FanDuel. $6,700. All right, so we'll go to Stefon Diggs. We just got 3 spots left. I'll complete the lineup with the optimizer. What does it give us? Rashee Rice and Travis Kelce with Alvin Kamara. Let's run this again. I actually don't really love that. Let's run it again. 10% randomness. Actually, I'm going to move this to 0% randomness. I'm curious because, like I said, this is a 30-man league. We don't have to worry all that much about being contrarian. The actual projections themselves are going to matter a little bit more. Let's just optimize it. 0% randomness. What do we get? All right, Derrick Henry. Okay, Derrick Henry is a way better option on FanDuel than DraftKings. Touchdowns matter a little bit more on FanDuel. PPR doesn't come into play. We know that Henry doesn't have much passing game work. So Derrick Henry in a good matchup against the Jets, who are now without Quinn and Williams. I think that Derrick Henry, pretty solid looking play on FanDuel. So we got Derrick Henry, Travis Kelce, and Wan'Dale Robinson showed up as the final pieces. All right, let's sim this out. Although I guess, you know, sim for a 30-man league, not quite as pertinent, but still, I'm curious to see how this ends up coming out. And solid, 77.5% sim ROI. Yeah, go ahead and do that. I think that's a really good build for a 30-man league, Jacoby Brissett stack. Jake, what do we got from Jake here? Can I build my favorite Drake Maye naked stack? All right, so I'm going to say this right away. I don't have a favorite Drake Maye naked stack. I do not like playing him naked. But avoid anyone over 25 to 30% field owned, but no need to pick anyone. Okay, so we've got very specific constraints. We cannot play anybody 25+% owned. And we can't pick anybody sub 5% owned. And it also has to be a Drake Maye stack, or sorry, Drake Maye naked lineup with no stacking partner. All right. Interesting. Let's see if we can make this work. Okay. So it's going to be Drake Maye at QB. Now, who are the top value running backs who are less than 25% owned? So we basically just can't use Chase Brown or Jahmyr Gibbs. So if we're not going to go to Jahmyr Gibbs, let's go to Bijan as an alternative option. And we'll go Emmanuel Wilson as well. Now, wide receiver. The only disqualified player is Amon-Ra St. Brown. He can't be in the lineup. So, by the way, I'm going to lean really heavily into our points per dollar projections for this, just because of if we're not going to have any correlation in the lineup, it better project really well to have any chance having a positive sim ROI. So let's go Michael Wilson. I know he's popular, but he is below the, maybe I'm cheating with actually in the nature of Jake's question. I have a feeling he probably doesn't want, I know that Michael Wilson's 22.5% owned, but it's not quite 25%. I feel like that's not in line with the nature of what he's asking here, though. So, all right. Instead, let's go to Jacoby Myers. We'll plug in Romeo Doubs, and then we'll go Jameson Williams, who's going to serve as a decent leverage option here off of a more popular Amon-Ra St. Brown. He still projects well for us, but if Amon-Ra St. Brown is going to be 33% owned, we're not allowed to play him in the lineup. Jameson Williams will at least give us leverage there. So a tight end. Let's see. What do we want to do at tight end? We could go to Gesicki as a run back. This gives us $5,700 left. Don't want the Saints defense because we already have Bijan in the lineup. Let's go Browns defense. That gives us $8,500 in the flex. And then, all right, Jahmyr Gibbs projects. Oh, no, but he's not going to. Okay, so let's see. So Jahmyr Gibbs projects the best, followed by Amon-Ra St. Brown, but we can't go to either of them in the lineup because they don't meet the ownership standards that are being asked of us. We might have to go more expensive somewhere. Let's go back to wide receiver because we're going to have excess salary here. All right, I'm going to just change Romeo Doubs for JSN. Let's do that. And then that gives us $4,400 in the flex. Who fits in the flex for $4,400? Is Kyle Pitts the best option? Looks like it. All right, so Kyle Pitts it is. So this ended up being Drake Maye, Bijan Robinson, Emmanuel Wilson, Jacoby Myers, JSN, Jameson Williams, Mike Gesicki is a run back, Kyle Pitts, Browns defense. I hate this lineup. I don't like it. Now watch a sim at like a 300% sim ROI. It's okay. 27.5. We're able to make it positive, at least, by leaning into the points per dollar projections. But I don't think that lineup has enough upside to come in like the top of a GPP, to be honest with you, Jake. Let's see. What do we have from Smoothie? Smoothie, can you run this for me? Brissett, Gibbs, Henry, Mooney, Wilson. We've got Donis, McBride, Brown, and the Cleveland defense. You could also swap for Mechie. All right, let's build this out. And I assume DraftKings. I assume this is for DraftKings. Brissett, Gibbs, and Henry. Gibbs and Henry. And like I said before, I like Henry over on FanDuel. He's playable on DraftKings. I prefer to get my exposure to him on DraftKings, but he is still playable on DraftKings. Mooney, Wilson, and then we've got he said Adonis. I assume you mean Adonai Mitchell. You said Adonis. I'm going to assume you mean Adonai Mitchell. Right? Let me just double. Yeah, there's nobody. I was just making sure there isn't somebody I'm forgetting. I'm making an educated guess that you mean Adonai Mitchell. McBride at tight end. And then you've got Chase Brown. And then at defense, the Browns. Let's see. Is there a better defense that we could plug in? Just sort here. No, that's the one that projects best to fill in. All right, let's run the sim. Jacoby Brissett. I like this lineup. I think this, like individually, there are pieces like Adonai Mitchell and Darnell Mooney that I don't really like all that much, but the core of the lineup I like. And yeah, simmed out okay there as well. 30.7% sim ROI. What do we got next? What do we got next? Plan B Smoothie says, screw you. Oh my, we've got a heated. There can only be one Smoothie. Here's what I think we have to do. Because we've got Plan B Smoothie and we've got Smoothie One, both leaving super chats. Head to head, loser leaves. Loser leaves chat. Or at least loser changes their username. because we got multiple smoothies in here, creating a little bit of heat. Another super chat from Smoothie. I am obviously the real Smoothie. I super chat. Well, here's the deal, though. You are responding to a super chat saying you're the real Smoothie because you super chat, but you both super chatted. And I appreciate it from both of you guys. And for everybody else, if you want to support us, like the video, subscribe to the channel. If you do want to sign up for any of the packages we have at Stokastic, links are down below in the YouTube description box. And also, check out Tails, which is also free. Another really easy, free way to support us. You download the Tails app or just go to tails.bet and go there regularly throughout the day. Check out the bets. Flame emoji, that like button that we have below some of the posts, some of your favorite bets, like them. Press that flame emoji. And then also, if you're really enjoying the experience, give us a 5-star rating. It helps us a ton. And I'm going to be honest with you guys. The ratings have been down the last couple of days. We need your support. This is what we need to grow the app. So do us a favor. 5-star rating, and then write us a 1 or 2 sentence review if you're willing to take a minute or two of your time. We could really use those reviews, and we've hardly had any of them come in over the last couple of days. If you guys could do that, massive, massive help to our free content. We really do appreciate it. Let's see what else we got here. MKD DFS. Lots of Brissett lineups, which makes sense. I think that I know that we already have a decent amount of exposure projected for Jacoby Brissett and Michael Wilson. Given how those games went last week, and Trey McBride is going to be super popular. Like, that's in our projections already. I think Jacoby Brissett and Michael Wilson are going to be even more popular than we have them projected. They broke the slate last week. It's a pretty similar situation with Marvin Harrison out. And almost every single super chat we've gotten with the lineup so far has Jacoby Brissett at quarterback. I think that we're probably underselling a little bit the amount of exposure that's going to be going there. We've got Brissett right now, 11.2% owned. We've got Michael Wilson just over 20% owned. And this lineup actually doesn't have Michael Wilson in it. But the point remains, I think we're going to see a little bit more ownership than projected going to the Cardinals. All right. Interesting. You're going with Tootin at running back. So we've got Tootin with Henderson. Keep in mind that this situation with Henderson is different. So let's go to our projections for the Patriots. So we still have Travion Henderson projected over Ramondre Stevenson, but keep in mind, these big games that we had recently from Travion Henderson, Ramondre Stevenson was out. I do think this has to change the equation a little bit for Henderson. The ceiling is the same, but I think the floor is lower. We're not that far removed from Mike Vrabel insisting on giving the ball to Stevenson over Henderson. I do think Henderson plays more today, but don't think you just load up on Henderson and get the same workload that you've had in the previous weeks. At wide receiver, Olave. Smith, I assume that this is Devonta Smith. Burden. You have too many players in this lineup that don't project well, by the way. We'll see how it sims out. I think the projection is lacking a little bit for the lineup, though. Jahmyr Gibbs. And then the Saints defense to round it out. All right. And yeah, $200 left. All right. So I have the right, I have the right Smith in the lineup then. It's got to be the right Smith since the lineup worked. Let's see what questions we got in the Discord channel as well. Captain Akella wanted to know from me who is my single entry stack for today. 8.7%. So like a neutral lineup. I actually thought that was going to come out a little bit lower. But yeah, I think like guys like Luther Burden, who's only projecting for 9 fantasy points for us. You've got Henderson, who I think is okay to take shots on. Tootin, I don't know that I'd want all of these super contrarian guys in the same lineup together. 3% on Tootin, 3% on Henderson, 6% on Burden. Find a couple of guys, like even throwing Chase Brown into the lineup maybe instead of Henderson or something like that. That would make it sim out better. Captain Akella, who's my favorite single entry quarterback for today? Jalen Hurts. The lineup that I built out at the top, the Jalen Hurts double stack, that's my favorite contrarian build for today. All right, what do we have here? Our guy, Jeff Williams, late to the show. My apologies. Have you discussed Charbonnet with Walker possibly out? Walker's expected to play. The last report we got, and I'll read it off, about Kenneth Walker. So the last that we heard from Kenneth Walker was, I'm pretty sure that, I'm just trying to find the exact tweet. Where is it? Kenneth Walker. Yeah, expected to play. Why can I not? Okay, here it is. Ian Rappaport. Ian Rappaport from last night around midnight. Kenneth Walker glute is expected to play after being listed as questionable, Coach Mike McDonald told reporters. So I wouldn't sweat it that much. It looks like Kenneth Walker is going to be good to go for it today. Alexander Williams left us a super chat. There is no question attached here, though. Here we go. Found it in chat. Can I build a Jackson, Brown, Gibbs, Flowers, Rice, Shaheed, Goddard, Njoku, and Browns lineup? Absolutely. Let's plug that one in for you. All right. Lamar Jackson. And then you've got at running back Chase Brown and Jahmyr Gibbs. Jahmyr Gibbs, Chase Brown. And then you've got in here, it was a Flowers, Rashee Rice, and Shaheed. Flowers to Jackson is, I thought this was going to come up a little bit in ownership over the course of the week. It hasn't, and it's actually pretty decent leverage off of Henry, who's more popular than both of them. So that is something to consider when it comes to the Jackson Flowers stacks. I like them quite a bit. Shaheed, Goddard. And then you had, double tight end with Njoku. Interesting. David Njoku, which I did not spell correctly. And then you had the Browns defense. Let's plug this in. See how this one looks. And then what do we have next for us? Oh, this is going to, we'll try it. We'll try it. A Shedeur Sanders double stack, negative 23.5% sim ROI. So where did this lineup go wrong? Shaheed projects really poorly for us. So does David Njoku. Here, let's make a really quick adjustment here. Let's just take these three guys out. Shaheed, Njoku, Goddard. And let's just complete the lineup with those three spots. It gave us Wilson, Pitts, and Gesicki. Watch how this is going to improve the sim ROI just by changing those three guys out. It's going to go positive. I hope anyway. I'm confidently going to be wrong if that's not the case. You went from negative to 84.7% sim ROI just by changing out those three players and getting the projection a little bit better. Otherwise, looks decent. I don't think this is possible. Shedeur Sanders and a Shedeur Sanders double stack. His passing yardage prop is 147 yards. It's just going to be hard to find production. But all right, Sanders. I mean, who? I guess Judy and Fannin. I guess that's where we go with the Sanders double stack. I'm going to give this the best possible chance to succeed. 0% ran this and just going to complete the lineup around these three players. So we're getting our best projected players around this. And obviously, you've got a 0.3% owned quarterback, a 2% owned wide receiver, 2% owned tight end. Who gives a shit if the rest of the lineup is going to be chalky? So let's see. This is like the best possible Shedeur Sanders double stack you could build in our data. How does it come out? Negative 19% sim ROI. You are not going to be able to build out a Sanders lineup that sims out positively. I'm pretty sure on that. Zach, could I do a Seattle stack? Yes. So if I'm going to stack Seattle, my preference is just Darnold to JSN. That's my preference. If we did have, it doesn't matter because he's going to play, or at least he's expected to play. If there was no Kenneth Walker, then I would throw in Charbonnet as well, but obviously that's not the case. Let's go Darnold to JSN. No need for a run back here because who the hell do we want to roster from the Titans? Nobody. At least nobody should be the answer. Now we're going to have to get a little bit cheaper at running back. So we're going to have to plug in our chalk cheap options and Emmanuel Wilson and Chase Brown here just to make some of the salary work because JSN is really expensive. Then let's go to the Saints at defense to save salary with again. And let's just optimize around this. 10% randomness and complete. By the way, I only have 5 minutes left to go here, guys, and a handful of super chats just came in, as well as questions from Discord. If you could do me a favor, let's cut off the questions here, because last week I used up like 15 minutes of Ben and Lofty's time. I do appreciate all the questions and all the support, but we've run out of time. 60.9% sim ROI. So yeah, Seattle stacks, certainly viable. Certainly. Oh boy, we got more heat here. The smoothie rivalry, it will not stop. Plan B smoothie versus smoothie one. There was a point in time, I'm sure you guys remember, where boxing matches, well, fake boxing matches, they never actually happened, but the fake boxing matches were big in the DFS space. I know I said before, you guys should play a head-to-head, loser goes home sort of thing to figure out who the real smoothie is. Maybe this could only be settled by a fake boxing match, though. Plan B might be the OG, but I'm newer and fresher. Fruit isn't made to age, and it's time this chat brings in some newer and younger drinks for perspective. All right. The gauntlet's been thrown down. Plan B smoothie. Your turn to respond. Let's see what we got. Alexander Williams, can we run? Yeah, I ran this. Okay, so yeah, this is the lineup that we ran in for you before, so we've got this taken care of. Let's see what we've got here from Maurice. I think that's how it's pronounced. If I have that wrong, my apologies. But we've got another Seahawks stack here. Once again, I'm going to say the same thing I said before because this is Charbonnet in the lineup. If you are playing Charbonnet because you think that Kenneth Walker is going to be out, he is expected to play now. We'll throw Charbonnet in here and see how it comes out. Charbonnet is $4,900 with a good matchup against the Titans. If I'm going to play one of those backs, I prefer Kenneth Walker to Zach Charbonnet. But you've got Charbonnet in your lineup. We've got ETN at running back. And then at wide receiver, you've got JSN. You've got Butte. You've got Christian Watson. I'm calling it now. This lineup is going to sim out poorly. But I think part of that might be because of the Charbonnet assumption you were making there. Adonai Mitchell. And then the Falcons defense to round it out here. You also left $1,800 in salary on the table. But let's run the sim. This one, yeah, I would be stunned if this isn't negative. Yeah, negative 75%. So take Charbonnet out of your lineup, and then some like Butte we've got projected for 7 fantasy points. Christian Watson is okay as a contrarian option. You've got too many contrarian options in here that don't project well, though. Let's see what we got from Matt. 25%, 10% randomness. He wants the Browns defense. Amon-Ra St. Brown, Jahmyr Gibbs. All right. Do you mind if, not that you're going to be able to respond vocally, I'm going to put Goff in the lineup, though, just to ensure that we get some stacking. And then I'll finish it out with the rest of your guys. Browns, Amon-Ra St. Brown, Gibbs. Okay. Gibbs, Amon-Ra St. Brown, and the Browns defense. But yeah, if I just pressed random, you know, just or if I just used the optimizer to complete the lineup and didn't put Goff in, it's pretty unlikely that we'd end up getting any kind of stacking with it. So Goff is going to give it the best chance of success here. Going to press sim now. So what do we get? Goff, Gibbs, Chase Brown, Amon-Ra St. Brown, Michael Wilson, Trey McBride, Mason Taylor. So there's a contrarian piece with the Browns defense. And yeah, 69.6% sim ROI. Looks pretty good for you there, Matt. And then the last lineup that we got as a super chat. Hurts, Charbonnet, Gibbs, AJ Brown, Butte. We've got, I assume that's Hollywood Brown, Kelsey, Barkley, Vikings defense. Hurts at QB. By the way, also, just for some of you guys in chat, are you playing Charbonnet just because you like him? Which is fine. If you just like playing Zach Charbonnet this week, cool. If you just think he's a good option. But I just want to remind you, which I'm sure I'm sounding like a broken record at this point, if you are playing him just because you think Kenneth Walker is out, don't play him for that reason. Totally fine if you're playing him just because you like the spot against the Titans. I just want to make sure you're playing him for the right reason, though. Amon-Ra St. Brown. Oh, no, never mind. A.J. Brown is who was in the lineup. A.J. Brown. We've got Hollywood Brown, who is going to drag down this lineup. Charbonnet and Hollywood Brown are both going to drag this lineup down. So is Butte. Who else? Kelsey, Barkley, and the Vikings defense. There are individual pieces of this lineup I like, but I hate the lineup overall. Individual pieces I like. On the whole, I hate it. And the Vikings. I love the stack. All right, only $100 left. So let's see what we've got here. For the sim ROI. And then let me make sure, negative 73.5% sim ROI. The core is fine. Jalen Hurts, A.J. Brown, the Eagles stack. But Charbonnet, Hollywood Brown, those two pieces in particular, especially when you've already got Travis Kelce in the lineup, that's going to kill it a little bit. Let's see. We've also got in here from Discord, from Tom Chambers, and this will be our final lineup, and then I'm going to hand this over to Ben and Lofty for the deep dive. We've got, Tom wants to build a lineup, Goff, Saquon Barkley. I know the last lineup had Barkley. In general, we didn't really get Barkley lineups. I like him as a contrarian option at 10%. Like him as a contrarian option. The number one thing that I'm going to be ROI boosting, it is going to be Eagles offensive players. Jalen Hurts, Saquon Barkley, A.J. Brown, Devonta Smith, Dallas Goedert. I'm going to give all of them a positive ROI boost in this game against the Cowboys. All right, so Goff, Saquon, Amon-Ra St. Brown, Jameson Williams. Amon-Ra St. Brown, Jameson Williams. And was there anybody else in here? Nope. So let's just complete this with 10% randomness, run the sim, and see how it goes. We got Chase Brown, Michael Wilson, Juwan Johnson, and Emmanuel Wilson to fill out the lineup. So something else, we had that super chat, if you guys remember, from like 15, 20 minutes ago, where somebody asked, do you have to play Emmanuel Wilson? We had a lot of lineups that simmed out positively without Emmanuel Wilson. This is the first one we've had with him in a little while here, but 57.6% sim ROI. So Tom, that ended up looking pretty good, and I do like Saquon Barkley as a contrarian running back. So there we go. We go out on a high note, which is good. We didn't want to finish with a negative 75% sim ROI lineup. We go out instead with a positive 57.6% sim ROI lineup. So guys, this is the end of my term, but 3 more hours of NFL coverage, so don't go anywhere. Like the video, subscribe to the YouTube channel, and coming up next, it's Ben and Lofty.
Hey, good morning. Welcome to the Stokastic.com NFL Deeper Dive Week 12, baby. Yes, it's a good slate, too. It's a very, very good slate. Looking forward to diving into this one. We got you till 11:30, so we're going to do everything we can to go through all of these games, and then Spags and Eric take over, take you all the way up to lock. We still are waiting on some injury news. We've gotten a lot of it. You know, for those of you guys who don't really pay attention to much NFL news throughout the week. And then come Sunday and you're just trying to, cram everything. Obviously, the situations like Joe Burrow was expected to play earlier in the week. The line moved as a result. He's not activated off the IR. Jackson Dart is also not playing. So I think we have a lot of the key stuff we need. Many players who were on the injury report earlier in the week are good to go, or they're just officially ruled out. But Ben, yeah, that's definitely one thing that I'm trying to pay as much attention to as possible leading up to this first injury report. I think we'll be okay, though.
I think we're in good shape. Morning, everybody. Yeah, I think we got the big news. We didn't get any that I saw. Like usually, there's one or two out of left field.
Yep.
Like I got hurt. Worthy sporting a Q tag. He got tweaked in practice, but I think he's gonna play.
He always every week he sports a Q tag, but doesn't happen till Friday or Thursday.
Yeah, and he's not doing anything anyway. So no, I think we're mostly in the clear. We'll see about a couple quarterbacks and a couple stacks, but from what I need to do, what we need to do building wise, I think we're going to be in good shape here.
Yeah, I mean, we took some shots on Worthy last week. Is it ever going to work at this point?
I'll probably do it again.
You have to, because the moment you stop is when he's going to end up having a monster game. That's how it always works. So then what happens is you just don't stop, but since you don't stop, it never actually happens.
Yeah, correct. That happens quite frequently.
I told people, I think it was last month, I was like, look, this is the first week I'm not betting the Jets. The Titans. It was the Titans, because the Titans were massive dogs every single game. So this is the first week I think I'm not going to bet the Titans. You guys should bet the Titans. And then they miraculously come back against Arizona. Remember that game?
Oh, do I remember that game? Yes, I remember that game quite vividly.
Look, tell me I have narcissistic tendencies. I'd probably agree with you. But I'm pretty convinced if I bet the Titans in that game, DeMercado does not fumble at the goal line.
That was like the fifth craziest thing. That was the game where the Titans scored on a 30-yard fumble. The fumble went like...
Well, no, the interception and then a fumble off the interception into the end zone.
Yeah, but the guy intercepted it at like the 25-yard line. It was insane. And Kyler took a snap off the face and broke his foot.
Was that game?
Yeah, same game.
What a disastrous set of organizations that is. Anyway, how you feeling, brother? You ready to get into this?
Good. Yeah, got through weird college football slate. Some good, some bad. The Georgia Tech game was outrageous stuff. I know you watched. That's why you don't sport them 28 free points. Then they came all the way back, and they still blew it on a 100-yard interception. But we ended on a high note, and I like this slate. It's a nice, Thanksgiving. I'm excited. We're going to be doing plenty of content here, but this is a good Sunday slate before the big turkey day.
Yeah, man. It's coming up. You and I will have a bunch of content this week. It was my youngest daughter's second birthday yesterday. So
I was paying attention on the hold on. Where's that? Yeah, here we go.
I'll let her know you said so.
Yeah, let her know.
Yeah. We went on a little train ride. Nice. It's like a egregiously overpriced train ride where
like Under Siege too.
No, you get on a train. It's in New Hope, Pennsylvania. Everything in New Hope is stupid overpriced. And then they go up a few miles. Santa comes out. I got some good pictures of one of my kids looking at him sideways. Because Santa is creepy when you're a kid. Like just an odd dude walks up to you and starts, bellowing out nonsense, right? So, but overall it was good. Oh, I threw my back out yesterday. Worst it's ever been. I'm talking debilitated. I didn't think I could go. I felt like a quadriplegic who was just beginning to regain sensation in his legs. Embarrassing. Wow. I'm telling you, it's still very, very, very bad. Anyone who's experienced this, I promise you, I'm not looking for sympathy. This shit hurts, man. It is so painful to do everything. But good thing I have a chair. So let's get into it. Yeah. We got 11 games to break down. Atone for your sins this morning if you haven't done so yet. Hit that thumbs up, subscribe. It goes a very long way. We appreciate you guys for that. And I know many of you guys jump in. It's the first thing you do. I know. I don't have to tell you. But for anyone who forgot, maybe you got some stuff going on, just a subtle reminder, hit that thumbs up. Show us a little bit of love around here. All right, let's go. MD, it is getting worse, man. It happened once. And then I was lifting. It happened once, and then it happens again. Yesterday it happened, dude, taking the trash out. Soon it'll be sleeping, But yeah, man, it sucks. I just force myself to not lay down because then I feel like a piece of shit. All right, first game up, New England Patriots, Cincinnati Bengals, 49-point total. I've done that too, Justin. 7.5-point spread. This has bounced all over the place, Ben, but it hasn't been natural line movement, right? Like this line movement was the result of Joe Burrow, which I'm sure you noticed. I think the furthest it moved was to 5.5. So even with Joe Burrow potentially expected back at one point, like it moved 3 points, 2.5 in other spots. I'm not saying it's insignificant, but it would have been his first game back. I don't look at this as just an incredible downgrade for Flacco because, in fairness, the guy's put up 38 plus points in 2 of his last 3 starts. But I tweeted this the other day, and I would love to know what you guys in chat think. Obviously, you're going to get Ben's thoughts right now. I really want to know what you make of this Patriots team because I'm not sure it matters whether or not Flacco's back there or Burrow's back there if this team gives up 35, 40 points a game. You know what I mean? There's still an aspect of it doesn't matter who you have. Like Burrow last year should have been the MVP. If it was just quality of play and keeping your team competitive, Burrow should have been the MVP, but the defense was so bad that they would give away every single game late. Hunter Henry against this Bengals defense. They're terrible against tight ends. No team's allowed more touchdowns. They've allowed 5 more touchdowns to tight ends than any other team this year. And I know that's just one metric, but they're bad everywhere. And then you have the Trevion Henderson scenario with Ramondre Stevenson back. That worries me a little bit.
It's tricky. You mentioned it's obviously an exploitable defense, but the Patriots are not really built, particularly with some reinforcements, as a team that has, I think, direct prioritization. You mentioned multiple backs. You mentioned Hunter Henry. Booty's back. Diggs is there. Obviously, they have a multitude of other weapons. Drake Maye is mobile. They're a 7.5-point favorite, a healthy total. You can definitely go to the Patriots, and it's probably a Maye stack, but it's not like, he comes preloaded with, JSN or an alpha receiver. He absolutely doesn't. You can get a tight end. You could get Diggs, but it's hard to know what the targets are for this team. So it's tricky. Yeah, I'm gonna force some New England in because their team total is very healthy, and I think they could get tripped up here, but I've been perpetually wrong on New England because the Raiders screwed me in week 1 there. How they lost to the Raiders in hindsight is a weird data point when you zoom out. But yeah, Cincinnati's defense is atrocious. It seems like every game the Bengals play devolves into a back and forth affair.
It also feels like every time this team faces the Patriots, like last year, remember week 1, the Patriots were 10.5-point dogs and they won. Remember that game?
I remember because Survivor was over after.
Yeah, that's right. Week. That's right. Yeah. I really do like a sub 4K Hunter Henry though.
Okay.
I don't really know what to do though with the pass catchers because Kayshon Boutte's off the injury report. And now it's just one of these odd teams, right? Where you have Stephon Diggs, who I kind of think is a little bit overpriced, not because of the matchup, but because does it go to Mac Hollins? Is it Kayshon Boutte? Does Demario Douglas have 2 touchdowns on his 3 targets? How many times this year have we seen that I'm not exaggerating either. The Patriots always happen to do this in really good matchups where you jam a guy like Diggs and then Boutte has 2 30-plus yard deep targets downfield and both of them go for touchdowns.
Again, it's just kind of the nature of the offense. So I think you want to take pieces, and I would agree if I was taking just a one-off unrelated to a Patriots stack, it would be Hunter Henry. There's some depth at tight end today, but it's still a position I'm not worried about kind of getting rid of, or you could go 2 tight ends if you need salary relief. But other than that, New England's just kind of a middle of the road team for me. It's not my favorite stack. Drake Maye's price, certainly is at a premium, and it should be. I mean, I never thought he would be the most expensive quarterback on a slate with Mahomes and Lamar and many other top-end players, but Drake Maye absolutely deserves that. But again, that factors in. So middle of the road, and then I'm just going to take Cincinnati right here because I don't have a ton to say. Jamar Chase, obviously not there. I don't know if that really helps Higgins, I'll be honest. Sure, he'll get some volume, but he's also going to draw the elite coverage.
Christian Gonzalez, no less. It's not like, he gets their best corner. No, you're getting a very good corner.
Very good corner. Chase Brown, sure, he should have volume, but I really respect New England up front. not the easiest. He can get some PPR production, and then you've got salary relief options with the secondary players. You could play tight end roulette there. Maybe you have a read on what that's going to look like, but you've got them. You've got Josivas. I'm not getting to any stacks, but that's kind of how I'm just kind of mixing and matching on both sides of this game.
Yeah. I would say this. Number one, Chase Brown without Samaje Perine is just going to get a ton of work. It's not the best matchup, but he has 25 plus opportunities in 2 straight games without Perine. Perine played 1 snap in that other game, so that doesn't count, right? Before the ankle. Taj Brooks has 1 carry in each of those games. So to me, the Chase Brown volume is just so significant at home, Ben, that it's really hard to get away from. The other question is Mike Gesicki. With him being back, him being cheap, I'll get a little bit of him as well, knowing that they'll likely be playing from behind again. And you know what? This is not a good Bengals team. Joe Flacco is old, but they still have proven over the course of the season that they can move the football. Now, do they just stagnate without Jamar Chase? That is possible. But Chase Brown is game script proof in the sense that at that price point, at the very least, the opportunities are going to be there. So my actual 2 preferred options here are going to be Chase Brown and a very cheap Mike Gesicki, because I think the value in both of those is really, really good.
Will you play Noah Fant?
Maybe. He's what? He's $3,100. Mike Gesicki is,
I think he's
$2,600. And I mean, probably a little bit, because if you have no Jamar Chase, you might just see additional opportunities spread around.
Yeah, I have some. Even with Gesicki, I think it's worth it to just kind of. There's an unknown target distribution.
I agree.
After T. Higgins.
They're both cheap, and doesn't this game still have like a 50-point total?
Yeah, very healthy.
Yeah. So if the totals are as big as it is, and they're going to be playing from behind, I don't really think there are a ton of wrong decisions. You mentioned Josivas. Do I love that? No. But again, 50.5-point total with juice to the over. I'm okay with it. And I will get to some Stefon Diggs, by the way, Ben. Like, I think this game overall, if it shoots out, I want a lot of pieces here. But you'd agree, before we move on to the next game, that the Patriots offense isn't as cut and dry as it's been like last week was far more cut and dry, right? It was Diggs because Booty was still out. Not to say that makes a massive difference, but you get what I'm saying. And then Trevion Henderson, clearly, because there was no Ramondre Stevenson, and that went on for 3 weeks.
100%.
All right. So favorite plays from this game?
It would be Hunter Henry, and even though Chase Brown has a tough matchup, you mentioned volume, that's hard to ignore.
All right, and I will put this up real quick before we move on to the next game, just to get your thoughts on all of this. Make sure that let me clear any of these filters here. Exposures, because I'm sure people are wondering, right? If we're talking about exposures to both sides of this, hold on.
Yeah. Can Austin Hooper vulture a touchdown away from Henry? Absolutely.
Yeah.
That's another guy that I don't know if he's completely playable, but he certainly factors into cannibalization.
Hunter Henry, Drake Maye, Stefon Diggs. See, Stefon Diggs has come down throughout the week because of that price point, and Booty being healthy. 7% Maye. But interestingly enough, we're getting 7% Maye with 9% Henry and 7% Diggs, which is it's suggesting, right, Ben, that you're not getting a lot of Henry and Diggs outside of Maye stacks.
Yep.
And then finally, we've got a lot of Chase Brown. Look, 13% Gesicki, no Fant, 2% Josivas, 5% Flacco, 8% Higgins. To me, that makes sense. That's pretty much where I'm okay with being. All right, so let's keep it moving here. The next game we've got up, Minnesota and Green Bay. 41-point total here at Lambeau, dude. So very, very low total. I must say, just looking at a game like this and seeing McCarthy last week, but then seeing McCarthy and company beat the Lions, even though if you look at McCarthy's numbers in that game, they just weren't good. 42 degrees, no real wind. So it's a low total, but this is more of a defensive thing. This is more, hey, this Green Bay offense is banged up as well. We're still, waiting on significant injury news with Josh Jacobs. It appears that Matt LaFleur is looking to drag this out as long as he possibly can.
Yeah, this is a frustrating game. I think fortunately Green Bay has just dragged down everybody with them thanks to this defense. That makes it a little easier to stomach because there are unknowns here. I'm not messing around much with Minnesota. You mentioned McCarthy. I do think there is an unquantifiable variable with him that when the game at the end, he does make some plays late, but that you don't get bonus points for making fourth quarter plays. And he was atrocious for 90% of that game. And then they didn't even win anyway because they gave up a long kickoff return, but that's irrelevant. I don't really want, with all the top end players on this slate, I'm not sure that Minnesota is the against the grain stack that I want to get to. I think you get to the Vikings defense. If you want to be very contrarian and you tell me you love Justin Jefferson today, I would never push back on that, but that's a tough sell to me. I don't have a lot of Vikings. I don't think I'll manually boost them, and I doubt the Sims give me a lot of them.
The only spot that I would say could be okay, just because no one's going to go there, is Aaron Jones this week.
I'm fine with that.
Well, here's the thing, right? Going up, and he is going up against his former team at Lambeau, and somebody on Twitter sent me a quote of him being like, I really would like to get into the end zone this week. I wasn't able to do it last time. Now, does that mean anything? No, he wanted to get in last time, and he didn't. So there's that. But to me, what stands out, and you and I, look, we were over the target on this one last week with Jones. He just didn't produce. And, of course, Jordan Mason vultures that touchdown.
Of course.
Which apparently every backup had a touchdown last week.
Every,
right?
Like Gainwell. I'm not going. If I went through it all, we would run out of time.
The show would be over. Yeah.
The show would be over.
But yeah, everybody. Anyway, he had 23 opportunities in that game, 16 carries, 6 targets. He didn't have the most, incredible game. But man, when you go and look at that compared to Mason, I mean, Jones played 37 snaps. Mason played 9 snaps on the day. So just from a volume and opportunity standpoint, a very low-owned Aaron Jones against his former team at Lambeau, I don't think is the craziest decision that you can make.
Yeah. If he's the type of guy I'm not going to do much with, in the sense that if I get some Aaron Jones exposure, I'll be more than happy to leave that. And if I don't, I could live with it.
Yep. And then we've got Green Bay here. Of course, Kraft on the IR. He's out. I don't know, like the whole Josh Jacob thing is really frustrating right now. We will find out. Fortunately, that's a 1:00 game. Thank God. That would be miserable otherwise. But if he's out, yeah, do you get some Emmanuel Wilson? I believe you would. Romeo Doubs, 25%. I actually don't mind that. Romeo Doubs falling to 4,900, with this team. We know that he happens to be a pretty reliable wide receiver in most cases, and Kraft being out, you're going to have to look somewhere because Kraft was the go-to guy before. But he's going to lead the team in snaps essentially every week. He should be seeing the bulk of targets. They don't have any reliable pass catchers at tight end right now. I mean, Musgrave has been highly underwhelming. You have Wicks and Golden and these guys. But, yeah, I do think now that you're under 5K, somebody like Romeo Doubs is going to be, at least in my opinion, someone that's – oh, and by the way, Golden's not expected to play again today, right? Yeah, Golden's not expected to play. Wicks, I don't know if Wicks is going to play.
I thought he was supposed to play.
I think he's more likely than Golden, but there's still 3 of these guys that are not off the injury report right now. So worth keeping in mind. And then Jaden Reed was not activated off the IR. He is still on there. Yeah, Romeo Doubs, 4,900. That's actually a really good spot. I like that this week.
Yeah, I mean, Packers simple for me. I have no interest in the stack. I'm not going to talk about the running back situation because we don't know. The fellas leading you up to lock are going to fill you in there right here, and I'll be watching to find out what they're going to do. I've got Dobbs. I think if you told me Christian Watson is that leverage point that you want to get to, he's a big body, he's got red zone equity, that's fine. It's just there's not a ton of volume here, and if they play from ahead, it's going to be even worse.
And Chat made a couple of good points I forgot to bring up. The Packers play again on Thursday.
Yep.
Right? They play again on Thursday. And this is not, this is actually not a team that can just sleepwalk through certain games at all.
Any games at this point.
Any games. The Bears are at the top of their division, man. And the Packers, escaped with a win against Jameis Winston and the Giants last week, but they dropped 2 prior to that, one against the Panthers. The Lions are a half game back only because the Packers tied the Dallas Cowboys 40-40, and the Vikings are 4-6. So they're not all that far behind. Packers lose this game, you go to 6-4-1. Then the Vikings are 5-6, and the Lions have a home matchup as 13-point favorites against the Giants.
Yeah, no, I mean that's the next game, and that is the team. The Lions are in a kill spot today.
We're gonna get to it. Don't worry, because I got a lot to say on that. I know you do as well. You said you're not going to talk about the running back situation, but we have to at least do this. If Josh Jacobs is out, and I think it's more likely than not that he's out, it's odd to me that you would run him all the way up to warmups and then he just gets a full workload, and he wasn't able to play through last game, half of it. So I think it will be Wilson. I have no problems with Wilson. I don't love Wilson the way I've loved guys like Rico Dowdle without Chuba Hubbard at 4,600. I do think there's a difference between this value and some of the value we've seen earlier in the year with cheaper running backs.
Yeah, that's why I'm not super concerned about it, because he doesn't become a plug-in play where it's like, oh, this is the number one chalk option on the entire slate if Jacob sits. That's not true. I think this is a pretty objectively poor matchup for him.
Me too.
If you had him and then you could pivot to Montgomery or Kareem Hunt, obviously if you can just rework as well. But if you were in a jam, those would be like the slide pivots. But Wilson's not going to define my slate. If Jacobs plays, then it's a complete washout. Obviously, don't play Wilson then.
New York Giants, Detroit Lions, 12.5, some 13s out there. We're going to start with the Giants here, not because we want to, but because we have to, and we got to get it out of the way. This is one of these spots. I posted something on Twitter yesterday on Tails, and I said, look, give me your favorite NFL bet for week 12. I said I was going to pick it at 9 today, but because my back's been absolutely destroying me, I've been short on time. So I'm going to pick it right after this show if you haven't submitted one yet. And I said, give me your favorite bet. I'm going to pick the one I like the most, Ben. I'll post it on Tails. I'm going to bet it myself. And then if I win, we split the profits. 100 to you, 100 to me. And so many people were on the Lions that it terrified me. Now, I bet the Lions earlier in the week at -10 or 10.5. What?
It's steamed all the way. Or it's taking 13.5 right now.
But I got lucky there because they expected Dart to be back, right? So I think that moved a lot of it. But still, we'll take it. And everything. It was St. Brown. It was Gibbs. It was Jamison Williams. It was the Lions. It was this. You know what I mean? That's the only thing that scares me when everybody's on it. But you and I talk about this all the time. When the Detroit Lions, with coming off of a loss, and they've come off some pretty rough losses this year, they've just annihilated opponents the following week. They lose to the Packers in week 1. They crush the Bears the following week. They lose to the Chiefs in a pretty ugly primetime loss. They beat up on Baker Mayfield in his worst game. They lose coming off the bye at home to the Vikings. They crush the Washington Commanders. And now they score 9 points with 5 turnover on downs in Jared Goff's worst performance, I think, of his career against the Eagles at the Link on Sunday Night Football. And you have a home matchup against the New York Giants. Look, man, I get it. I understand people want to go here. So do I.
Yeah, I mean, just because, 2 things can be true. I agree. When the public, everything is pointing one direction, a lot of times that ends in complete disaster. Sometimes it ends in great, great victory. Like they could just win by 50 today. It happens. And this is a really good spot. Now the line has reflected that, and that's more of a tails question than what we want to do in DFS. For DFS, the Lions onslaught is going to be playable. The Lions pick a weapon is going to be playable. You've got Gibbs as a premier running back option. St. Brown is probably in the most crowded range relative to the guys we're talking about because there's a lot of big time receivers. And then you've got Jamison Williams, who's going to be popular because of his price point. And Laporta is now completely gone. So that really makes a Lions offense that's very difficult to project a little more projectable. It's Goff +2. It's take any of these weapons. Don't think you need a run back because the Lions have shown the ability to run it up even when the other team doesn't keep pace.
Well, now you've got Gibbs Williams, St. Brown. I mean, I actually bet David Montgomery to score because his touchdown odds
So
were.
did I. So did I.
Well, and I assume you saw what I did or what I saw. You had Montgomery at like minus 115, minus 120, and Gibbs at minus 330. And Montgomery actually has the same amount of touches inside the 10 and the same amount and 10 to 7 carries at the goal line this year. So I thought, if they do in fact go out and it's just dismantling of the New York Giants, seemed like a pretty good number on Montgomery, especially considered to where Gibbs was this week.
Yeah, I mean, and that number has, for what it's worth, that number has moved. It has come up on the Montgomery side, and it was partly for me. This is not really relevant, like a hedge, because I'm not really going to get there on DFS for Montgomery. There's too many backs, but the Lions are going to be a popular team, and they should be. And they're back home. Obviously, they also play on Thanksgiving. I don't think that'll affect a ton because they're such a high-powered offense. We've seen them get there in 3 quarters a multitude of times.
All right. So here's what I love doing this week. This is a great week to have double Lions.
Yeah, I have that.
Without Goff. And listen, I have some Goff triples as well. Like I have Goff doubles, Jared Goff triples, a lot of stuff here. And by the way, I went to pull up the Giants exposures for you guys. Don't worry about it.
Mm-hmm.
Wan'Dale Robinson, we got about 5%. That's it. But, this is a pretty typical spot, Ben, where you could easily go Gibbs, Jameson Williams, Gibbs, St. Brown. You know what I mean? And you don't have to only get multiple Lions by getting to Jared Goff. That's not true. This is the type of week where with their total, with the spread, with the understanding that Dan Campbell is more, has the propensity more than any other head coach to keep his foot on the gas, even if they are up. And let's not forget, last week when they lost that game, they probably were losing it anyway, but you don't know. And there was a phantom defensive pass interference call that resulted in that ball getting turned over and Philly being able to kneel it out at home. There's no way there's no way they're not pissed off about that. There's simply, I'll tell you this much, Ben. Like I said, I love the doubles without Goff. I like doubles with Goff. Don't be afraid to play the Lions or, any team for that matter with a big total this week. And there are lots of like a JSN spot with, you want to go wild on a Kenneth Walker, assuming he's good to go. I would say ultimately that this is the type of game you can do or team that you can kind of do anything you want with.
Yeah, I mean, they're a dynamic offense, so you can do anything. I think there's a lot of obvious ways, and then I think you could play the Lions defense and hope that it's short fields and you take one Lion and hope the touch, because there are times where the Lions where one guy catches 3 touchdowns instead of 1-1-1. That's also a thing, and we don't really know. So it's an obvious team to have exposure. They're 2 touchdown favorite at home against the Giants team that I just simply don't think we'll be able to slow them. So get right spot for Detroit, and I do think they look every bit as good as they're expected to.
Also, last thing on this game before we move on, the Lions can still not be optimal here. Like they're still, because they're so expensive, they could still score 35 and the ball's spread around. But the obvious positive last week, last thing I'll say, just for those of you guys wondering, is that between Gibbs, Jameson Williams, and Amon-Ra St. Brown, they saw about, I think it was 82% of targeted passes go their way. If you look at Brock Wright, it shows 7, but from everything I saw, only 4 of them were actually targeted passes and not throwaways where he was the closest receiver. So that's a lot, Ben. The absence of Sam Laporta, I think, is far more noteworthy than the box score may have suggested last week. Like Brock Wright is not typically getting 7 targets, and he actually didn't when you dig a little bit deeper.
Yeah, I mean, again, it's a team that they're going to factor in one way or another, but the price points are true. There's a lot of times where you see someone on the Lions have a good game, and it's not that they're not needed, but they're not required.
Yep.
That's the distinction I'm making. Like you would, if Gibbs or St. Brown put up 30 today, you're probably going to want them, but it's not a guarantee that you need them. So that is a distinction. If Jamison Williams does that, that's a different story. At 57, if he puts up a game like that, now we're talking about someone that you're basically almost required to have at the very top.
Any other thoughts on this game?
No, I mean, I'll say this. I would save the Gibbs Montgomery for Thanksgiving. I think that's too thin on an 11-game slate.
Who do they play? I think it's the Packers.
I don't care.
I think it's the Packers.
I just hope it's not the Bears. A lot of times it's the Bears, and that's when it is the Packers. That'll be bad, but not as bad as when it's the Bears.
Bad, but who's going to want to do it?
Yeah.
Pittsburgh and Chicago. I feel like Rodgers plays.
This is one of the unknowns we're still waiting for, is it not?
It is. Everything is that Rodgers wants to play. Like, if it were up to him, he'd be playing, which makes sense. Now, it is also his non-throwing wrist, right? So
yes. Oh, 100%.
Yeah, it's his non-throwing wrist. You still have to be able to, get two hands on the football, but I have a feeling I think he's gonna be out there.
Yeah. I broke my left wrist. I would know. I could have played if I had to.
How'd you do it?
What?
How'd you do it?
Actually playing football, ironically.
Oh.
Yeah. Yep.
Hitting the ground or hitting someone else?
No, hitting the ground. Backyard football.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
It's fun.
Yeah.
But I think he's one way or the other, though. I don't really love the pass catchers in this spot. And it's a shame because Chicago's maybe this is the spot I'm actually looking at all wrong, because the Bears are kind of depleted defensively, right? They've got a bunch of injuries to this team right now. Like, they're missing multiple linebackers. They didn't activate Jalen Johnson off the IR or Kyler Gordon. I think both of them were eligible. Like, they have a lot of guys who are hurt on this defense right now.
Yeah, I mean, I'm okay. So that was a weird situation last week. Of all the pieces that didn't, Jaylen Warren was nobody's fault. He got hurt.
And then Gainwell. Yeah, but Gainwell took that touchdown in the first quarter.
Early.
Yeah.
But Warren still would have got there.
Yeah, and he said he could have played, which makes it even worse.
So I don't mind going right back to him. This is another team. It's not the most prevalent of what you just talked about, but if you told me you think this game goes over, if you wanted Metcalf and Warren without Rodgers, I would be okay with that. I really would. Now, I prefer Warren of the two, but the Bears, I don't know. I've been betting against the Bears, not to great success. Might do it again. You'll have to check out what I put out there on Tails later, but man, I still think the Bears defense can be exposed.
I know they can. I mean, they absolutely can, man. We're getting 5% Metcalf, a little bit of Steelers D. I don't think that's crazy. Steelers D won the Milley for a D-pack for a Stokastic sub last week, by the way. Darnell Washington, that's my guy. He's a monster.
Yes, he's quite a mismatch. It's a problem.
But it's not just that he's a mismatch. If he gets the ball, you still have to tackle him.
Yeah, that's why it's a problem.
Yeah, he is not an easy man to there was, I don't know if it was last week or the week before, this dude rumbling down the sideline. I really thought it was going to be a scenario where they pile 6 guys on his back and he just drags them all into the end zone.
I mean, it wasn't that far off. He threw like 3 guys to the sidelines.
What was that movie?
The Little Giants.
It was Little Giants, right?
Yeah.
With Spike?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah? Okay.
I know what you're talking about.
It was Spike. Yeah.
Yeah. 100%.
Okay. Yeah. I was going to say Icebox. Icebox was the chick, right?
Yeah. 100%.
Yeah. But Spike, yeah, okay. Good movie.
Great movie.
I got to get the girls on that soon once they can understand it.
That's one of those movies that's not on any channel, though. There's
I know
certain
why.
movies that are just in the underground. That's like Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles is on. It's either Showtime or Stars, and they're running it a lot. So for all the people out there, take advantage of that. But yeah, certain movies are just on no channel. Little Giants being one of them.
Yeah, I had to go buy the Dennis the Menace from the 90s one. So
yeah, like that's never on.
No, and that's a good one. But yeah, you're right. I had to buy it from Prime. You can buy them.
You can buy them.
It's not a lot, but okay. So we're not getting a lot of Warren. I think maybe you're right.
I'm gonna boost him if I get none.
The reason I say this before we move on from Pittsburgh, because it is probably just like Metcalf and Warren if you're trying to do this, right? Probably not getting to a lot of Calvin Austin or Roman Wilson or unfortunately Freiermuth, because I still think he's a great pass catching tight end. But I do wonder how much of this is just, all right, well, we saw what happened with Gainwell last week, and then Warren got hurt. Like, are we underestimating what Warren's workload looks like if he's healthy today? And also, Ben, he is 6,600.
Yeah, I mean, listen, it's not like, there's a kill spot, but if no one's playing him.
I get it. And everyone's playing a similarly priced Chase Brown for what it's worth.
And they're similarly profiled players, except one has a much better matchup and is going to be way less popular. So just keep that in mind. I don't have a lot else because it is an unknown, and we'll see about the Roger news.
Yeah.
Chicago's playable too, though. They're quietly, I think, they could be an under the radar stack today.
I think so. This game has a 47.5 point total.
Yeah. And I'm telling you, the Bears, they're one of those teams, both of these teams actually. Like when I think of Steelers and Bears, I think of defense. That's not the profile of either of these teams right now.
No, I think the Steelers defense has improved from where we saw earlier in the season, but they've got injuries too. So taking a look at what we've got here on the other side of this one from the Bears, I would imagine it's not a ton, right? Luther Burden.
Okay. I mean, he's cheap. I get it, but
yeah, 3,600. That's probably going to be in lineups where you're jamming a lot of these top tier running back and wide receivers because there's a lot of good spots for them this week. I think Rome is interesting at 6,100. That's the other spot that I would definitely consider. I know he got blanked in that Bengals game, and I think probably left a bad taste in the mouths of a lot of people who ended up rostering him at a high clip. And he just was thoroughly uninvolved in a game where they scored 47 points. And he's been underwhelming. He's 6,100. I don't think it's a crazy spot here. The question more so is, can you protect Caleb Williams with Watt coming at you? That's the biggest thing is that if that defensive line and those pass rushers get to you, they're going to have you in for a long day. So I'll get to a little bit of Burden, maybe a little bit of Swift. He's 5,600, but you still have that Monungai, lurking in the backfield, a little Odunze. I'll sprinkle these guys. I don't have priorities from either team, though.
No, neither do I. I just actually dropped in chat. For anybody who wants to tail the anytime TD parlay, it is posted and Rome is in it. I have Rome in mind.
Oh, you do?
I do. I like that number on him. I think he scores today.
Okay. Reese Powell, I've got a ton of Rome today.
Yeah.
All right, Reese.
Right in the parlay. So we need him to find the end zone.
Sorry, real quick. Alan, are you still posting your bonus lineups to tails? Yeah, dude, I did. I don't know what happened. They didn't show up, and I reached out to our devs about it. It may have been user error on my part. So, far be it for me to blame anybody. But the moment this show's over, I'm going to pick the bet from the giveaway, and I'm going to post those bonus lineups again over on tails. We'll still have time. We'll be out of here by 11:30. We'll still have an hour and a half before lock. So I will get all of those up. I didn't forget about you. I posted them. And then when I came back to it later, I noticed that they weren't there, which is an unfortunate set of circumstances. But we will definitely do it. Anything else for either side on this one?
No, not really.
All right. Swaggy, Lavi, if I'm trying to be under the field on Chase Brown, do you adjust projection on Sim or ROI boost him down? No, I would not adjust the projection because if you're adjusting the projection on Chase Brown, what you should really be doing is adjusting the projection on the rest of the team, right? You can't adjust the projection down on a guy without.
It's
Go ahead.
Domino effects. If one goes up, one goes it's all fluid.
Right. Like if you're adjusting him down, then his passing yards or receiving yards are probably going down, which means you have to adjust Flacco's receiving yards down, or you have to allocate those receiving yards elsewhere if you don't touch Flacco. Or you have to, if you're adjusting him down, you have to move Taj Brooks up, which is a real tough thing to do for a guy that's not touching the football at all. But to your question, Swaggy Pete, if you're doing that, what I like to do, Ben, when you're getting that much, I don't actually negatively boost them down. I just set an exposure cap.
Yeah, there's several ways to do it. You can set an exposure cap. You can boost them down, or you can just, even within, you do some subsections of filtering and take some of those other lineups. But yeah, I rarely, if ever, I don't know about you, Luffy, touch the actual projection.
No, I use our data, and then I'll use either some ROI boosts. And if there's one guy I'm getting none of, like Gabe Davis last week, I was getting none of him. I wanted to get some of him, but I needed to boost him massively, Ben. So this is Greg's trick, and it works really well. What you could do, say, if you just wanted some Gabe Davis, you could boost him 100% and then just cap him at 10%. So you still can't get him in any more than 10% of lineups, but boosting him that much, you're ensuring yourself that you're getting some of it. So there's that. All right. Let's talk about the Seattle Seahawks and Tennessee Titans. I actually find this to be a very, very interesting game this week. And it's unfortunate that Kenneth Walker had that quad injury pop up late in the week, because I mentioned on Friday's show with Greg on the Sim Strategy show that I was really tempted to end up getting some Kenneth Walker on a slate where it seemed like he was going to get zero ownership at $5,400. I know Jeffrey Simmons is healthy, but it's a 13.5 point spread. JSN is going to get, the bulk of that exposure and ownership, really. I still think I'll probably try to get a little over the field on Kenneth Walker this week. And I'm not suggesting anyone has to do the same. He is James Cook, not in that same sense, but James Cook has a game or two every year where nobody plays him and he ends up winning someone a tournament. It happened last year where Rick took down the Milley with the Stokastic Sims and actually handpicked that lineup. And James Cook was in the Milley winning lineup earlier this year against the Carolina Panthers when he wasn't high owned, because the Panthers looked like they were playing well and Buffalo was not, and they destroyed them and he had 200 plus rushing yards. You have not seen that from from Walker. And you also have Zach Charbonnet in the backfield that makes things, very uncomfortable. But as a 13.5 point favorite, there's always multiple ways to skin a cat if you're a very good offense. And I think what happens in a game like this is most people look toward the JSNs, maybe even Barner coming off of a double-digit target game. I don't think a lot of these guys will get much ownership, but it is surprising to me to see that outside of JSN getting double-digit exposure, nobody else as a 13.5 point favorite is getting anything.
Yeah, I mean, it is interesting because, and me included, I'm throwing myself in here. Everyone is talking about Detroit get right spot, off the tough loss.
Yeah, Darnold got picked off 4 times last game.
He was terrible in a huge game, and now they draw the Titans. And it's a similar spread. So it's interesting because before that, and I know they were playing some bad teams, but the Titans are horrendous too. They were destroying. What they did to Washington and Arizona was non-competitive football. The game, Darnold was not throwing the ball in the second half whatsoever. So it's been there. The ingredients have been there. It's more that the price points are really, like, JSN's going to have a game, but again, how often is he going to be required? I want some because the guy is unbelievable, but if he gives you a very effective game, I'm talking 100 plus and a touchdown, that doesn't really assure you of anything. It assures you that he doesn't crush your lineups. That's about it.
Rodgers expected to be inactive.
Okay. That doesn't change that much for me, honestly.
No. I still think Metcalf looks fine, honestly, even with Rudolph expected to play. I don't think it's all that terrible. But no, you're right. But like, does JSN have a game? We saw against.
Oh, he might.
Was it? Oh, he could. I'm going to have some for sure. I actually don't mind Darnold skinnies with JSN. I have one that has Gibbs and St. Brown as well. So there's actually a lot you can do with that. I'm just saying sometimes in these type of games with the wild spreads, forget about Kenneth Walker himself, like individually. Just sometimes it helps to think outside of the box, Ben, because it's not always a guarantee if you just come out there and flatten these teams that other guys can't get involved and it's only your top dogs. So like Kenneth Walker, I might pull a boost to get some Rashid Shaheed this week too. They didn't bring him in not to use him, and he's $4,600. I do think there's an element here where what if Rashid Shaheed just has like 2 early touchdowns against bad coverage downfield, and Darnold's been one of the best deep ball throwers all season long outside of last week. Can I say, by the way, I said this before that game that the Seattle Seahawks have not faced a truly tough matchup this season outside of, I guess, week 1 or maybe one more. But I was very curious to see how Darnold could hold up against a really good Rams team, divisional spot on the road, and he did not. They've had a lot of cupcake matchups, and they've crushed those teams, but that wasn't the most shocking thing in the world to me at all. I mentioned it last week before the game kicked off.
Yeah, I mean, listen, but, two things can be true, and I know you're saying this. He doesn't need to hold up against elite matchups here. This is back to what he's been doing great, which is destroying inferior competition.
What I'm saying is I throw last week out the window because
Absolutely.
Against bad teams, he's crushed them. Yeah, exactly. We're saying the same thing here for sure. PJ, Charbonnet, low leverage, mega mind genius play. You know what? He might be. I don't know. He's 4,900. Maybe you're right. Maybe he gets like 13 touches. It's not out of the cards. The problem is this game needs to not get so out of hand early like it did against, was it Arizona or Washington? Arizona? Yeah.
Both of them were out of hand instantly.
But where they literally stopped using the starters. We don't want, what's his name, like Greg Halani or whatever it is. We don't, George Halani. We don't need, I don't know.
You're not a George Halani fan?
We don't need George Halani coming in and getting opportunities in the third quarter.
Poor guy catching strays on the show.
Sorry.
I'm a big George Halani fan. So
yeah, sorry, Garrett. All right, that's where I'm at here. This is going to sound like I don't do research throughout the week and I don't pay attention to football, which of course you guys know would be entirely untrue. It's going to sound like I am not, I'm not up to the standards here, but I am at a point now with the Tennessee Titans where I don't even look at their snap counts.
Yeah, it's irrelevant.
And Browns run anymore. I simply do not know I don't know what the point is anymore. Watch, they're just going to have a game today. If that happens though, I'm not kidding. It would possibly be the most shocking development of the entire season, Ben. If Tennessee came out here, Cam Ward came out, and they dropped like even 21 points on Seattle. I see people talking about Gunnar Helm today, and these type of guys.
Gunnar Helm. Okay.
Yeah, you have no Calvin Ridley. He's on the IR. Alec Iomanner is out. So you have DK at 4K. Like,
no.
I know, that's what I'm saying. It's almost a Van Jefferson, Kinsley. These are the guys we're talking about today.
We're not talking about them today. That would be who we would have to talk about if we were forced to talk about the Titans. Yeah, the difference between them and the Giants is the implied total. It's the same spread, but look at the totals on the game. Tennessee, if they drag this game into competitiveness, it's going to be because Seattle's offense struggles, not because they keep pace.
It feels like that's the only way, right?
It is. I think that's actually not very possible. It is possible to me this game ends in a respectable, like 24-14 type game.
That's why I hate laying 13.5 on a road team.
That's fine. I see no way that this game ends like 38-31.
No.
I really don't.
No, look, we saw it last week. Tennessee, defense looked good against Houston, we've seen these type of games where defenses, was it Tennessee? Remember they had, I think, 2 defensive scores against the Chargers, which kept it competitive, but the offense did nothing the entirety of that game.
And then the Chargers ended up marching back in that game.
Of course. And I think they actually still managed to cover.
Yeah, they did. Oh, they did.
Yeah. So no, they didn't actually. No, they did not.
Really?
It was 8. I think it was 8. It was 8.5, I think. And they won by 7.
I blocked out all Tennessee. No matter what I do with Tennessee, I get it wrong. I bet them for years, and they never cover. Then I stopped betting them. They do cover. They're an impossible team. They're a lost team this year.
That's how you know how bad Callahan was. I no joke. I think they covered 2 games with him as a head coach for 1.5 seasons. You know how hard that is? Not 2 games, covered 2 games.
They give you the points. They literally, that's what the points are for. People talk about it all the time. How you bet this team? They're awful. That's why they gave me 4 touchdowns.
You're balancing an uneven matchup and actually making it bettable.
Yeah. Like, of course, when the team doesn't cover, they have to get blown out. That's why they're getting 28 points. Like, how are they supposed to keep it close and not cover then?
It's essentially like you flipped a coin 23 times, 25 times on Callahan, and you flipped for heads and it came up tails.
Yeah, I could do that.
What?
I could do that. That's the way I've been running. I could flip a coin and go 2 and 25.
Yeah, I could see it. Me too. Anyway, final thoughts on Seattle. I need to get everybody. We need to put a bow on Seattle because it is one of the most interesting teams, and they're getting no ownership. If your answer is I don't really want to get to many guys outside of JSN, fine. But it's also like total malpractice for us to ignore the fact that there's 13.5-point favorites as well.
Yeah, I don't have it. I don't think it's a great onslaught team, so it's JSN mostly. I might have a skinny Darnold stacker too. Jacobs is out.
Yep.
Okay, so Wilson's playable, but he's not a guarantee. Have to have it.
My final thoughts again would just be I want to sprinkle a little Kenneth Walker, sure. And I'll get a little bit of Rashid Shaheed in case there's that 2-touchdown game on 250. Listen, if he could do it with guys like we saw last year with Spencer Rattlers and the corpse of Derek Carr, he can do it with Sam Darnold against the Tennessee Titans. That's all. All right, Ben. Hey, we had a Milley winner last week. Another one. One.
It's a run, man. It really is.
Like another Milley winner. And by the way, is that not the most prototypical Sims lineup you've ever seen?
Listen, it's awesome when anyone wins a Milley rocking the Stokastic avatar, but just for me, this is my favorite Milley winner of the year because this lineup was right there for the taking. This is not like, well, this guy played Sean Tucker like when he was not even on the roster. Like he used a great common stack. He had 2 great one-offs with Tet and the Steelers defense. He had and he had the twist with Bijan and McMillan in that same game. What a cool lineup and a very sensible one.
Very. It's just, again, the triple stacks, a lot of weeks you're not going to cash with them. But when this works and you have that 2% on McMillan, what a big deal. By the way, his flex was Christian McCaffrey. So all it was a run back on the triple with the Arizona 3. This was not a weird, horrible lineup that no one could get to. As a matter of fact, when you run the Sims, you get these type of builds very, very often. And if you haven't done so yet, man, I'm telling you right now, you can get the Sims for free. Just get them for free. Use the link in the description. That's it. If you're on your phone, tap it. If you're on your desktop or whatever, click it. Ben, you take one of these sports books that we have. This is it. Or pick'em sites. It doesn't matter. Any of our partners. Click claim offer. And after you click claim offer, it's going to take you to that book. You sign up, you deposit $5 or $10, whatever the minimum is, and you just place a bet or set a DFS pick'em lineup. Once it settles, just email us at support@stokastic.com. Ron, who handles customer support, is the best in the game, man. He will get back to you very quickly. Just let him know what sport you want, and you'll get a month of the Sims for free. So you do it today, dude, you're getting Thanksgiving, Black Friday, you're getting the Sunday main, Sunday afternoon, Sunday night, Monday slate, and then you're getting all of the other slates. You're running it all the way through Christmas as well, or up until Christmas, but you could take 2 slates too. Like you could take, two months. If you claimed Onyx, which is available in 40 plus states. So if you're in a non-legal betting state, there's a sweepstakes book. You spend 10, you get 100 in bonus picks. They have one of the best sign-up offers out there as well. And if you took Caesars, that's 2 months. You're clearing the rest of the NFL season, right? And plenty of the playoffs as well. Or you could take a month of NFL and a month of NBA, just let Ron know. But that's all there is to it, Ben. I don't think any other, especially with the tools as good as we have, that have taken down 4 millies already this year in 11 weeks. And also a lot of low stakes players. You don't have to go into this being like, oh man, I don't play the Milley. It doesn't matter. We have low stakes players who do this, play $1 and ROI, what? It take $300 off of $1. So there you go. Raise the bar. Just got 2 free months of the Sims. Took less than 2 hours to get up and running. And what he means by that is not to complete the sign up, but for Ron to get back to him anyway. So, yeah, man.
I mean, Just listen to chat if you don't listen to us. Everyone is taking advantage of this because why wouldn't you? For the best time of the year, for Christmas, Thanksgiving, all the stuff coming up, you're getting so many extra slates, and you're getting the tools that are making people a ton of money for free. Use them.
Pre-rolling for 2 months by signing up with no other site does this, and if they do, they don't have the tools that we have.
I mean, it's just nonstop. So it's awesome, smart. Love to hear it. The success that people are having, that Bruce is having.
Hell yeah, man.
All right.
All right, let's talk about the Jets and the Baltimore, right?
Get rid of the Jets and talk about Baltimore.
I might have a little AD Mitchell.
Sure, but
he's $3,200. He gets open. The problem with football is you need to catch the ball, right? And at times he has struggled catching the football. But I think at 3,200, this is not, by the way, this is not a flag plant, but I was just going through some of my lineups, and I noticed a bunch of them were jamming really good players. And in order to do so, some of them resulted in $3,200 AD Mitchell with Tyrod Taylor, no longer Justin Fields under center. It's not like, to me, it's gross, but it's not something you can't do, because if AD Mitchell does in fact catch the ball, that's the crazy thing. He's really good at getting open, and he'd be good after the catch, but it's not just it's after the catch, and he needs to catch it. But that would be the one guy for New York that I have a little bit of today. You can disagree with me, Ben. I wouldn't blame you for it. But if you're playing large field contests, it's not I have 2% AD Mitchell. I'll show you right now.
Yeah,
I have 2% AD Mitchell. I have like 4% Mason Taylor, 4% Breece Hall. That's where I'm at. So not a flag plant, just a sprinkle.
Yeah, they're messing around. We'll see if they can jumpstart that offense. But there's no one on the Jets that's worth talking about outside of I'm taking a shot on a low-owned guy. That's all you're going to get.
That's all it is.
Yeah, that's all there is. But on the other side, Zay Flowers, I do like, and Derrick Henry. Derrick Henry's in a really good spot. His anytime touchdown prop is well north of even money. He's finding the end zone today. Could rumble for 2, and he's sub 8K. It's a reasonable price point. I don't see myself getting a ton of Lamar stacks. That's probably on the outside looking in. But give me some Derrick Henry. Give me some Zay Flowers. Give me some Baltimore defense if you want to do it that way. Ravens are in a pretty good spot today.
At 2,800, don't fully sleep on Isaiah Likely either.
That's fine. I'm interested. So we had a couple questions. One, I do want to just mention, Rich just said, Ron got me set up at 1 a.m. That is awesome. Just love to hear that. A couple people have asked me about Mitchell, though. Are you getting to him?
No, but it worries me a little bit about Derrick Henry. If this game goes sideways, actually not sideways, if it goes the way we expect it to go, there is a part of me that worries Keaton Mitchell gets worked in a little bit more than we'd want him to. That's just my honest answer.
Okay.
I like Derrick Henry today? Absolutely. Could he do mass damage in the first half of this game? Absolutely. I actually think Keaton Mitchell is decent, and that's what worries me a little bit. My expectations are he still just kind of spells Derrick Henry, but given that Derrick Henry is so infrequently used in the passing game, there is a little bit of concern there for sure. And Justice Hill is back this week.
Yep.
So he missed last week, and yeah, I'm not going to play Keaton Mitchell here. If this were a showdown slate, sure, I would have a ton of Keaton Mitchell, if we're being honest. He's minimum salary. He'd be very cheap on a showdown. Even a Thanksgiving slate, Ben, a 2-3 game slate, I would consider going to Keaton Mitchell. Today, I think it's way too narrow a path for him to be optimal, even at that price point. I'll have some Derrick Henry. I'm not jamming Derrick Henry because he is still very touchdown dependent. I did include him in a touchdown parlay over on Tails. But I like Henry. I'm not jamming Henry. I like Lamar stacks a little bit more than you do.
Okay.
I truly believe after watching the Jets without Sauce Gardner, without Quinnen Williams, maybe they try to get up for this game. But this defense, man, is very bad. And let me tell you something. The main concern I actually have for Baltimore's passing game today is not that they are incapable of dissecting the New York Jets, but that we end up having like 150 yards in pass interference calls that get them yardage and totally negate the fantasy production. What I saw against the Patriots was, it was terrible, just heinous. The defensive holding calls, the the total lack of awareness and undisciplined nature of this team on both sides of the field. I worry about the penalties, but aside from that, now I'll go to some Flowers. I like Flowers quite a bit. I took an alt at 90 on him this week. Mark Andrews. And then I'm going to sprinkle a little Isaiah Likely in. I think that's a very interesting spot in Lamar doubles.
Yeah, again, I don't think you need to force it. You mentioned we have 11 games here. And so we've got a lot of options. I'm not forcing in that type of stuff. I'll stick to the main weapons outside of Lamar stacks where you mentioned likely sub 3K. He's in the Gesicki range.
Anything else from either side of this one?
No, it's a 2 touchdown spread. I think almost all the exposure is coming from one team in this game.
As it really should. Like I said, You might sprinkle some low-owned guys, and that's what I'm doing, but nothing past that. Indy and KC. All right. This, to me, is one of the most fascinating games of the slate. You got the Chiefs coming off a loss in Denver. They were coming off a bye where prior to the bye, they lost to the Buffalo Bills. They're now 5-5. And there are, there were 10 teams at 5-5, but Houston won on Thursday, so they're 6-5 now. That's not irrelevant. You look at this Colts defense, and they get Travarius Ward off of the IR, and they add Sauce Gardner. So this defense now looks a lot more imposing in the secondary than they did even 1 week ago with Ward back and with Sauce Gardner integrated more into this, to the defense. I still think it's a better matchup than Mahomes had last week against the Broncos because the Broncos pass rush is insane and they can make everybody's life uncomfortable. But what do you do, man? What do you do with the Chiefs?
I'm playing them. Maybe this is it. Maybe it's not. I don't know, honestly. But I do know that the volume for Mahomes last week was way up. He wasn't super effective. He actually, ironically, didn't run the ball as much as I thought. And there is something developing. Not that I want to gravitate towards this, but it is not nothing. He has real splits at Arrowhead here. He has been insanely more effective at home this year than on the road. This is a game where I expect them to look good. You've got multiple pairing options. You've got Kelsey, you've got Rice, you've got Kareem Hunt, and then you've got Worthy. I think those are the 4. You can use them at price points. You can use at least a +2 if you want. I think Kansas City, I'm not saying it's easy in the sense I know I'm going to get it right or wrong, but it's easy that if you want to do it, I think it's pretty obvious how to do it. It's just play the stack in my mind.
I'm with you. I think Kelsey looks good here, especially, you have 2 very good corners. This could be a Kelsey spot.
Yeah, I mean, it could be a Kelsey spot. And the thing about the Chiefs, like a guy like Rice, he's a little different than most of the other alpha wide receivers. He could legitimately catch 13 screen passes today. Like they do that with him. So he doesn't need to just absolutely win an elite matchup. He can get the ball like a running back almost.
And not just that, Patrick Mahomes in this offense is very good at improvising.
Yeah.
So while you have 2 good corners, if you give Mahomes enough time, then they're going to find ways to get open. But I do like Kelsey. I'm with you on Mahomes and Rice. It feels like a very tough matchup on paper, and the Colts coming off of a bye week. But this is a game the Kansas City Chiefs absolutely need. Ben, if they drop this game, you fall to below 500 after 12 weeks.
I mean, yeah, they're basically out of margin for error. They have to win this game, I would say. I think they're going to win.
Not a huge fan of Kareem Hunt here. He's super touchdown dependent, but 5,100, okay. On the other side, Greg and I talked about this. He had actually pointed it out, and I started digging a little bit deeper. The Alec Pierce stuff, we're getting 9% Pierce. He leads the team with a almost 27% target share over the last 4 games, 59% air yard share. Now, I get it. You still have to catch him, and there's some good corners in Kansas City, but he has been really involved. I mean, really involved. He's 5K. I think Alec Pierce does actually make for a solid option. I don't see myself getting the Jonathan Taylor at 10K. It's just a really tough ask. Not that he can't have a good game, but if Jonathan Taylor pays off that salary and is optimal, you probably need another 3 touchdowns from him here. Dude, you want to talk about a tough spot for him to really get there against the Chiefs at Arrowhead and a must-win spot for Kansas City. Jonathan Taylor's tough to get to.
Oh yeah, I mean I said this to you on the first look show. I'm not really even thinking about Jonathan Taylor. I didn't really consider him.
Yeah.
So
He needs like a 40 spot, and not just I'm not just saying that in a vacuum. Look at every slate this season. Like every slate, there's what 2 or 3 or 4 30+ DraftKings point running backs. It's not just about what he needs, but what we've seen the rest of the field do every single week. To win these tournaments, you need like 240.
Yeah, I don't see that. If you're really confident that Jonathan Taylor gets there, you should build some type of same game parlay with him. Because you will isolate what you need, and there will be no other variables. If you're building a million lines, you want to put him in there, sure, but he's not in consideration for me. The other guy that I'm weighing is Pittman. I know you mentioned the Pierce stuff. Pittman still had a stretch where very recently he had 2 targets in the last game. He had 30 over the last 3 games before that.
Sure.
Though. So he's not irrelevant to this game. I don't really see myself getting a ton of Jones stacks. It's not impossible, but to me, I'm more interested in the KC side of this game. That includes Kansas City's defense over the Colts defense.
Waylon Jennings, the fact that Taylor's even in consideration at 10K is testimony to how good he's. Oh, dude, yeah, he's been.
He's the best.
Yeah, what is he averaging 2 touchdowns a game? He's been unbelievable. No doubt. It's just a very tough price.
And he's the man. I love Jonathan Taylor.
So
he's one of my favorite players in the league.
Me too. Love the guy. All right. We move on to the next one, Cleveland and Las Vegas.
This game just shouldn't exist. They should have flexed this to somewhere where no one could have to deal with it. What a game. People
love Shedeur Sanders.
I know.
And it's so strange to me because maybe it's just the whole like counterculture mindset. Because to me, I have no feelings about Shedeur Sanders one way or another, right? Like about whether I want him to be good or bad. I don't care.
Yeah, neither do I.
But right now, I don't think he's particularly good. And if you're doing this, all right. Now I guess you have a decent matchup against the Raiders, right? And what do you do? What do you do if you're going? Because we had questions already in chat. Shedeur Sanders, do we go? Do you play him with Judy, who has like a 31-yard receiving prop, or do you play him with Harold Fannin or any of these guys? Is that something you want to do? Do you want to get to Quinshon Judkins in actually a pretty tough matchup on the ground as opposed to through the air, and a guy that has had no pass catching upside? Maybe Sanders throws it to him where Dylan Gabriel didn't. Like Dylan Gabriel's not even a real quarterback out there. I don't know if Shedeur Sanders is. I don't think it hurts to try either. What do you have to lose? I genuinely don't see myself going to much of the Cleveland Browns today. If you guys want to take that risk, go for it. But they have a 16-point implied total. It's very low. And for them to get there, you would need probably a pretty miraculous performance from Shedeur Sanders.
To me, there's 3 things. 1, he's got a good matchup, so that helps. 2, sacks don't count as negative yards in the NFL because this guy takes like 30-yard sacks. And 3, we don't really know. And if you're going to buy on something, particularly in a low price range, I would prefer no data because there's a chance I would be stunned that Shedeur Sanders is just really good. And he gets weeks of practice and he's wildly, and we look back and we say, can you believe this guy was $4,200? I don't see it. I'm not playing him. I don't think he's going to be particularly effective. He was ineffective last week. I don't think it'll be that bad, clearly, but no, I'm not playing him. If I had to play a quarterback in that range, first of all, you don't. But even if I did, it wouldn't be him. I would play.
I'd play Tyler Shuck over him. I think at
100%. I would honestly play. I would play Tyrod over him if I would play Cam Ward over him.
Oh, really? Okay, so you're willing to. Okay.
But I will say that is the difference to speak to both sides of this. Cam Ward, we have a data set now where it's not working. Shedeur, we don't know. Yeah. It just seems unnecessary, but listen, more power to you if you want to go there. Even if he's effective too, though, like what's his ceiling? He gives you 18, like great, but now what? Like,
right.
You'll be behind raw points on many quarterbacks with him.
I've mentioned this point too. JB says in chat, I don't think a 4X at 4K is too much to ask for Shedeur. No, But again, it speaks to the same thing in reverse that I was talking about with Jonathan Taylor. We've seen quarterbacks go out there at this price point and give you 14 or 16, and the stack pairings, all give you like 15 or so. Even with that salary savings, it hasn't been enough this season with how high scoring we've seen these lineups. Like realistically, you'd probably want a 20 spot or more from Sanders, and then one of his pass catchers probably needs a big game as well.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see. And then the Raiders, they're a true disaster. They might be the worst team in the league.
Jordan Hoffnagel. Laffy going to say the same about the Cowboys today as they dust up the birds in midseason glory. I bet the Cowboys on like Tuesday, dude. So, no, I'm not going to say that. I actually think the Cowboys are interesting. The problem with the Cowboys, and we'll get to that game in just a minute, but the problem with the Cowboys is that it is an expensive stack and it is a tough matchup. We'll talk about it, though. I bet the under on Javonte Williams. I think you could see a big game from Dak here. I think you could see a shootout. But we got to get through this Cleveland-Vegas game first. On the other side, the Las Vegas Raiders. Look, Cleveland's a good defense. You know what I do with them, though, Ben. I bet them when they're at home. I fade them when they're on the road. And it is literally, if you look at it, as far as them covering the spread, it has worked every single week this season. Every single week it has worked. And, I think there's something to be said about that. You're on the road. You have no idea what you're going to get from Shedeur Sanders. Myles Garrett is a monster. This is what actually scares me about this matchup, though, is that we saw Geno Smith under pressure on over 40% of dropbacks last week against Dallas. Now, they have improved their pass rush. It's not terrible, but Myles Garrett is a true freak of nature. This guy is undeniably the best there is. One of the best we've seen, no joke, in our entire lifetimes, right? I think he had 4 solo sacks last week. He can do everything. If you don't find a way to stop Myles Garrett, it doesn't really matter if Brock Bowers is open. It's not going to actually matter. And I'm just throwing that out there because I have not told a single lie in anything I just said.
Yeah, no, I mean, again, and Chad's point, we got some Raiders fans, and I like the Raiders in life too. I really think they might be the worst team. It doesn't matter how good your skill position players are if you don't have a functioning offensive line like this. Like, Genty is not it's not that there are no holes. He gets the ball, and there are 3 guys on him before he's even close to the line of scrimmage. He has no chance.
No. And then they just give up.
Yeah, I mean, he has like 8 carries and they call it a day. It's rough. So if you tell me that, you want to go to a superstar in Bowers, I'm never going to push back on that. But this team has a critical flaw, and the Browns defense is going to be extremely chalky. Keep that in mind.
I agree.
Probably the cash defense today.
Wait, who do you think is the cash defense?
The Browns.
I would say Saints, but yeah.
Saints too, but the amount of sack equity here to give you like 7 a lot is something that people will go in that setting. Yeah.
Yep. But it's just, that's the one real scary point for me in this game. Have a little bit of Genty, have a little bit of Bowers, just in the event that Shedeur Sanders is so bad, Ben, that the defense is on the field too often for Cleveland, which can result in some bad things. But really a game that scares me. Let me know in chat if you guys disagree, but that's kind of where I'm looking at this. And yes, Jojo, for anyone who joined late, Aaron Rodgers is out. Josh Jacobs is also out. So any updates we need to do, they're probably already in progress. And Spags and Eric Lindquist taking over in just a couple of minutes. Jacksonville, Arizona. Let's do it, man. Talk about the Jags and talk about this Arizona spot. Jags beat the piss out of the Chargers last week. No doubt about it. That was a hell of a game, man. And why? Why? Because when you don't have Joe Alt and you can't protect your quarterback, you cannot score points and you cannot move the football. I can't stress enough how important that is. We all know it already. Jacksonville, I still don't think is a good football team, though. Like this is not a team that I have a ton of confidence in whatsoever. But Arizona stinks. So I was really hoping one of Tootin or ETN would be out this week. I would have ended up getting a lot of whoever was active. But now both of them are in. There's probably quite a bit of a timeshare there. The one guy we are actually getting to here on this Jag side is Jacoby Myers. Interesting spot at 4,700. I actually don't hate it because he's $500 cheaper than Washington.
I like the Jaguars today. I have some Lawrence stacks, and certainly Myers is in there. The running back situation is annoying. That's the word that comes to my mind, but it doesn't mean that they can't. Two things can be true. One, you have an extremely high chance of being vultured. They also could get there. Like ETN can still get there even if my guy takes some of his production. We saw that last week. ETN was running out of the Wildcat around the goal line and did salvage. And then you've got Parker Washington. Arizona is another disaster in this league. So I'm fine with attacking them with that. If I had to take a one-off, it would be Myers. But don't sleep on the Jaguars here as a whole.
All right. Your favorite way to play it, is it
it's a stack, a Lawrence stack.
It is a Lawrence stack. Okay.
Yes.
A lot of this just the belief that Arizona's defense is terrible.
Yeah, I'm very soured on Arizona as a team. I told you, I believe that they had 17 penalties last week, broke the franchise record.
And broke the franchise record for most receptions by a quarterback or completions.
Everything they do is stupid. They're a team that breeds nonsense, and that can be a really good thing for DFS.
It could. And Caleb, appreciate you more than anything, brother, not for tuning in, not just for the super chat, but for that etiquette right there.
Yeah.
When people super chat when we're heading into a game or a specific team, man, it makes the show go smooth. Caleb Wiggins, would you be willing to go underweight to Arizona this week? And last week is so over the top. I think he's saying because last week was so over the top, Sims pushed them a lot, but don't want to over adjust. I don't think that's a crazy alternative. The problem that you run into, and I'll toss this to Ben too to get his thoughts, is that like Trey McBride should be 8K right now. Michael Wilson sub 5K. He should be no joke. Like he should be 6K in a spot like this. Jacksonville does not have a great secondary. And Jacoby Brissett is still 5,300. So this isn't like it's pushing them because of last week. It pushed them really hard last week before that even happened, Ben. It's more so a product of DraftKings pretty inept pricing on this team today.
So yeah, it's definitely inept pricing. I still think the answer to that is yes, though. It doesn't mean though that you want to, or at least I don't want to full fade Arizona. It just means I'm not getting to like, there's going to be plenty of people, and I'm not saying this is wrong. I'm not saying I'm not doing it at all, that are going to do we just put a Milley winner on the screen. That was Brissett plus his big weapons. And instead of McCaffrey, it'll be Myers on the other side. People are going to build that stack. A lot of people.
Mm-hmm.
And that's fine. There's a million ways to still get exposure to this team without doing that. So I'm going to have a lot of lineups that just have Wilson.
That's what I was going to say. Like the answer might just be still get to Arizona at a good clip, but maybe less of the stacks this week.
Yep. That's how I'm going to do it. It's not that I don't want none of them. It's not that I don't think these guys can get there. I'll just have them in a Bears stack, in a I'm just throwing out teams, Raven stack, a Mahomes stack, something that has nothing to do with this game. So I cannibalize Brissett, hope he doesn't go crazy, and we get some of the production and we live to fight another day.
Yo, what do you got going over on tails for today?
So I already dropped it. I put it in chat. I'm going to throw it in there again, because if you guys don't follow the anytime touchdown parlay today, I'm not sure what you're doing because it's free and it is posted. I bet up a couple games. I bet some soccer games. I'll probably sneak in some college basketball. You and me both have a bunch of them. And again, if you haven't been over there yet, this is a free picks feed. We have trending topics so you can find the events that you're looking for. And when you find the bet that you want, you don't have to go into your sports book and match it. You just press that blue button on the screen. It says tail, and you tail with us. Look at that. I mean, it doesn't get easier than that. It is a group sweat. That is the concept behind tails. We are all in it together. We're putting plays on the board. You tail it with us. You sweat it with us. And hopefully you make some money with us. Look at these lotto tickets.
Yeah, well, we got the week 12 anytime touchdowns, trending, promos and boost collabs.
Yeah.
Parlays, early slate. So, if you're getting a free month of the Sims and you're looking for a bet, pop over to tail. You can tail Ben. You can tail me. just download the app or go to tails.bet. You can find us right with the links in the description. Pretty sweet stuff, man. Of course, you could always just search our names, Laffy, Jazzraz, pop right up, or use those links down there. Turn on notifications. You never miss anything. Also, I post free DFS content over there too. Like the bonus perfect lineups, which I thought posted. I got to post them right when we're done here, Ben. But yeah, you have the leaderboards to see who's on a heater, who's got long shot parlays out there, who's trending, all of that stuff, the most likes. So you name it, we got it all over there on Tails. Honestly, we're building an incredible platform. Grab the people you follow, put them all in one spot. You can't beat it, right? There's no other product out there that's like this that eliminates all of the noise of garbage that you'd see on other social media platforms that aren't specifically catered to betting and to DFS.
Yeah, it's been awesome. I appreciate had some solid chat contributions today. People go over there and give us follow. Again, notifications, and we're having a good time. So if you haven't been over there, you're truly missing out. And it's a great time to hop in.
Atlanta. Oh, and like I said, we'll never ask you to open your wallets up. You can create a free account if you have a second today. I know a lot of you did it last Sunday. Shout out to you guys if I forgot, because I saw a lot of them come in from Sunday. If you haven't done so yet, go to the App Store and just take a second, leave a 5-star rating. Even if it's like a 1-sentence review while you're watching the games today, set a reminder in your phone right now for like 1:30. Hey, I like these guys. They've helped me out in DFS. They've helped me out betting. I don't mind helping them out, taking a couple minutes out of my day. Set a reminder, tell your phone right now, hey, remind me at 2:00 to leave a quick review on the Tails app. That would be awesome. So thank you guys. I'm sure we'll see some pop up tomorrow after they get reviewed. All right. Atlanta and New Orleans. All right. I guess Bijan. The last time though, Drake London was out and Kirk Cousins was starting. They got hammered. They got destroyed by the Miami Dolphins in Atlanta. And that's only one game, right? But I think Kirk Cousins, like the last time he's thrown a touchdown was pre-COVID at this point. It's so bad. I understand the Bijan exposure here because they're going to have to get the ball to him. But, I mean, if you're the Saints, are you not just saying, all right, take Bijan out of this game and force Kirk Cousins to throw terrible passes? We're getting 10% hits, fine. I don't want to be over the field significantly there. I actually think the tight end position is good this week. But once again, we find ourselves in a bit of a predicament here because really how awfully this Atlanta offense has operated with Kirk Cousins under center. And now you take away a truly elite wide receiver in Drake London. This just looks so much worse. It's
not great. And I don't trust Atlanta to do anything smart. So it's like you should be force-feeding Bijan all sorts of plays. And I'm going to get him in because he's a mega talent. You've got Pitts. I think you could force in some Mooney if you wanted to. I know it's been very underwhelming. I'm not getting to any stacks. So it's a sub 40 total. I don't have a lot of Atlanta interest outside of Bijan. I think that's how the field looks at it, and that's how I look at it.
Yep. Me too. Brandon, projections update at 11:30 Eastern, ? Well, we will begin the update then.
Once inactives.
Yeah. Once we get the full inactives list in 2 minutes, and we'll have Eric and Spags on here, then I'd say it'll be up by, there you go, West up. I tailed both of your touchdown parlays. I said this in a video the other day, Ben. Those parlays, right, are less likely to hit. Right. They're not likely to. I have a crazy lotto out there, like on alts. I think I bet 50 to win 6K or something. They're not going to hit often. But the great thing about those is if you have a 5-legger and you hit 0 of 5 legs, it's the same thing as hitting 4 of 5 legs. Nothing matters until you hit them all. So if you go into a week and it's like, oh man, I had 4 of 5, I would rather hit 0 of 5 legs that week.
Oh, yeah.
Because in my mind, I go, well, then you know what? We're due. Nothing worse than the 4 or 5 spots, in my opinion.
I've been extremely lucky with my anytime touchdown parlays this year. I hit a couple, but I also had 2 that were like Derrick Henry was literally an inch short on one, and that hurt a lot worse than the weeks where I'm just like completely gutter balled. Mr. Mike, one of the sharpest on Tails, and in my Discord as well. Yeah, I don't have a lot of Atlanta concept. We're gonna get to this. There's no running back in this game that fits that Kamara a little. Like ETN.
Kamara does fit that bill though. And
I'm sorry, not on this game, on Atlanta's side. Kamara does fit that range, which is what made me think of it. I think for me, it would be Aaron Jones.
Okay, Jones.
Yeah.
I think Kenneth Walker, I want to sprinkle. He's 5,400 though. Not the greatest spot. Brian, how do you leave a review in the App Store? Just click on the app and you'll see where you can, where it says reviews. Yep. Click on reviews and then you can leave one. Thanks, man. Appreciate it. All right, so the only concern I have with Kamara, this guy hasn't scored he literally has not scored since week 1. They're coming off a bye. He had 25 opportunities last game, but it's still, a pretty underwhelming offense. But with how bad Atlanta has been, I'm not going to lie. I will have some Tyler Shuck. I will have some Kamara, and I will have some Chris Olave and Jawan Johnson. The way some people want to get to Cleveland, and by all means, go for it, man. Go for it. You want to take a shot on Shadur Sanders? Go for it. That's kind of how I feel about the Saints. Am I going to be wrong on this? Probably. But do I think is actually a slight home favorite in a dome where you're not worried about any conditions in late November and Chris Olave and Johnson actually being good talents and Kamara still having maybe a little bit of life left, a little gas in the tank? I would say the answer to that is yes, Ben. And of course, the Saints defense is self-explanatory.
Yep. The Saints are, of the bad teams we've talked about, they're by far in the best position. I don't think that's even close. First of all, they're a slight favorite. They're at home. It's not a good team total, but it's not horrendous. And everyone on this team is Olave is a mid-range player. The rest are pretty dirt cheap. You can stack them. You could one-off them. The Saints defense is up there. You mentioned as a very chalk option here. Cool. I just think the Saints make a lot of sense on a lot of levels. I want to be clear. Am I forcing in I'm jamming Tyler? No. But right. I'm going to have some as well as you.
Two things here before we get to the last game. And yes, it's exactly, I'm saying the same thing about all of New Orleans. I'm going to have some of all of these guys, including Kamara. I do think there's a path for Kamara, as much as I'm scared of getting to him. I didn't like him earlier in the week because we were getting a ton. We were jamming him. But, right, if he's 7% owned, that's fine, even at 15%. Yeah, shout out to Mike saying he just left an app in there.
Appreciate it.
Thank you, man. Do we have the best community or do we have the best community?
We have the best.
Yep.
That's why we whatever. Yeah, it is the best. It's awesome.
We have almost 4,000 people hanging out with us this morning. 516 likes. Ben?
What?
I don't know. I mean, almost 3,800, I should say, people hanging out. 517 likes. I think there's some people. It's Sunday morning. Maybe people had a couple drinks last night.
Shaking off the cobwebs.
I think a little subtle reminder. We start seeing that flow in.
Once you wake up, like I said, get to it, hit the like button. Help us help you.
Again, maybe even atone for your sins this fine morning.
Sure. I said that yesterday on the college football video.
It's the best, isn't it? It just feels good. And then once people do it, they realize good luck may be coming their way.
That's true.
Ready to wrap this up? Turn it over to Spags and Eric. Big game. Philly, Dallas.
Sick game.
It is a sick. I bet Dallas here. Outside of a field goal, this offense looks good. The defense isn't good, but they're better. Add Quinnen Williams. They get guys like Overshown back. They're not as bad as they were when Russell Wilson dissected them for 500 yards. They're still not good. And the Eagles defense is very good. But what do you do with that Dallas Cowboys offense today? They're not cheap is the thing, right? You are paying for them, but I could see this game shooting out. And if that's the case, I do want some Jalen Hurts doubles with A.J. Brown, with Devontae. I think you could throw Dallas Goedert into that mix for sure. And you know what? Saquon Barkley as well. So Dallas and Philadelphia. I just think that the Eagles, the reason I asked you about Dallas and then went to Philly is because it popped into my head. The one thing about the Eagles is at their current price points, they're actually easier to get to.
Oh, they definitely are, but it presents a interesting game theory because I still think the Cowboys are a cool stack and one that you can do that's going to be a little leveraged and a little different. Having said that, I'm taking this game on both sides here because I think the Eagles are one of the more undervalued teams. They're grading out decently in the Sims, but I might boost them. I've had success with that this year. You've got obviously weapons on the outside, and this seems like a very, very competitive game. If you told me there's one game that eclipses its total by like 15 points today, 20 points, I would say it is this game. This game has the most potential to do that.
Definitely. I see Spags here in the waiting area with the hat. He's going for the Jason Momoa look, I see.
I don't even know what that means. So
yes, you do. Wasn't he Aquaman, and he was in that Apple Plus Series C?
Oh, Carl Drogo, that guy?
I don't know. I don't know. I never saw Aquaman.
I believe that's the same guy. So.
I actually don't know.
Okay.
But Spags with the no hat. It's elusive. Some may say it's elusive for me, but for Spags, it's unheard of, you know?
We got to keep people guessing around here. But no, this is a good
like
game.
The Tasmanian tiger. You know, they say they're out there.
But they're not. Those are quite extinct, I believe.
I think the last one died in the 70s.
Yeah, that's what extinct means, when there's none left. that's literally the definition.
They say they're out there.
Yeah, they'd be wrong.
I've
searched.
Okay,
In the few times that I leave my apartment, I'm looking for those tigers. I never saw one at all in the suburbs. So yeah.
Anyway, my final thoughts on this one, and these guys will hit all of this, so don't worry. If you think we missed something, stick around. We're not getting to a lot of the Cowboys. I will boost them a little bit, and I'm very content with the exposure I'm getting to Philly. This game could get wild. The only drawback for Dallas is they are expensive on a slate where there are some very good players who are also in really good spots.
That is true, but with some of the running back value that's opened up, with some of the tight end value, and with cheap defenses, I don't mind forcing in some expensive Cowboys stacks and just seeing what happens.
Well, appreciate you guys as always. We just had a couple more guys mention that they jumped in and reviewed the app. Thank you guys. Thank you. Richard, I'm posting the Tails bonus lineups right after this. I did post them, so I don't know what happened. They didn't go through. I did post them, but you guys are the best. So are Spags and Eric Lindquist, and they're coming up right now. Come follow me and Ben over on Twitter, over on Tails. Stick around. These guys are taking it all the way up to lock. We got inactives out, and we are ready to go. We will see you back here for the next one. If we don't see you before Thanksgiving, have a great holiday. Otherwise, tons of content all week long right here on the Stokastic YouTube channel. Bye-bye.
What is going on, everybody? Welcome to Week 12 NFL Live Before Lock here at Stokastic. I am Eric Lindquist. I'm joined, as I am every Sunday, so fortunately so, with my buddy Chris Spags. You can follow him at Chris Spags. Make sure you hit the like button down below, but make sure you head over and follow him over at the Splash Play podcast over on the YouTubes. How you doing, my dude?
I'm glad to be here. Lofty blew my spot a little bit, which I do realize I was like very theatrically messing with my hair before the show because to be candid with you guys, to start off this really manly NFL show, I've been playing with my wife's conditioner a little bit in the shower because, like, you know, it was some guy in the chat talking about his long hair, Sean, actually, who has also been a part of my Splash Play community, so I got to shout him out. He's talking about like having split ends and stuff, and that is a thing if you grow your hair out. You have some split ends. My hair have no split ends right now. It's beautiful, long, just got the sides shaped up here for Thanksgiving time. So I was like flowing it around a little bit too much, and Lofty fairly made me feel like an asshole for doing that.
In dad life, I'm assuming, again, gotta get prepped myself. I'm assuming self-care is something that maybe goes away for a couple months and then you bring it back in style. You start taking care of the hair. Again, you look like you're glowing right now. It looks like you've been using all of the face stuff too. The wife's been giving you some evening masks while you guys watch Netflix, and drink the finer things. Yes.
No. I do moisturize. I think you should do that. You should drink a lot of water too. That keeps you looking less craggly as you get older. But I appreciate. Look, I'll take the compliments, guys. If I'm going to segue here to a new bit where I could be like the beautiful man of DFS, I think that'd be pretty fun. We don't have a lot of beautiful men here. I mean, like that are branded as such. Like you're beautiful, Eric, inside. But we're not.
Well, anyway, we're going to talk some football. Appreciate you. Hit the like button on a show with Gajeski again. We're going to get quiet. But anyway, we've got a lot of opportunities here to make some money. We've got the single lineup sim that I'm going to start sharing with you here. I'm going to wait for everything to get updated before I start sharing the sims, purely because there's some things in flux. We've got some ownership that has to come up on Mr. Emmanuel Wilson. As we get news, Josh Jacobs is going to be inactive for today, which is a gigantic thing, Spags. That's by far the one that stands out the most as far as actives and inactives go. Anything else that stood out to you, or do you want to just touch on that one?
No, I mean, God bless Josh Jacobs for not being in today, because I was building around Emmanuel Wilson all morning, and I was going to be really bummed if I had to redo everything here on a stream or try to swap with Kitty. Kitty the dog has to be next to me. She heard your voice, by the way, and she's like, "It's showtime. I gotta get in position." So the dog is here. Here we go.
Autobots assemble. There we go. Oh, my
but yeah, like I love that we get Emmanuel Wilson today. Again, I don't think he's Kyle Manunga. I mentioned this on my shows on Friday in particular, that I don't think it's like this smashed, oh, this guy's awesome, he might be better than the starter kind of situation. On the year, Emmanuel Wilson under a 2% avoided tackle rate. He is like the definition of not special, I would say, as a player. Josh Jacobs about 18% on the year if you want to compare an apples to apples kind of thing. But I think for Wilson, you get a spot versus Minnesota defense where the run game is much weaker than the pass defense. And that's something to me where you can play him as a nice value option, feel good about that. Curious to see how owned he gets, but certainly him and Chase Brown, those two with Jahmyr Gibbs, feels like that'll be a common pairing for lineups today.
Yeah, we're going to see volume-based ownership come up here for Emmanuel Wilson. That's really the name of the game. And, you look at his touchdown odds. I ended up betting his first touchdown. Not a market I go into very often, but there was a way to be able to extract some value there if you're in the Lindy and Friends Discord. Ended up firing that one up this morning, but he's 5,300 Spags. There's really nobody behind him. I haven't seen if they ended up getting Pierce Strong upgraded from the practice squad. He did. Yeah. So they brought him
last
up
night, which was sort of the foreshadowing, I feel like, of Jacobs probably not being in.
Yeah, I saw something about it. I just wanted to get confirmation on it. And obviously he would be in the projections if there were such things. So yeah, 0.34. But the thing is that they have an option who, this guy is also the definition of not special in Cleveland. Somebody who over the course of that time just basically would get 2-yard carries, run into the back. If you needed 2 yards, he'd get you 2 yards. If you needed 5 yards, he'd get you 2 yards. That was the Pierre Strong situation there. But Emmanuel Wilson, they trust him. He doesn't fumble. He was a special teamers basically turned running back from what I understand as well, but has found himself a little bit of a role behind Josh Jacobs, and there's nobody pushing him for touches. So Emmanuel Wilson going to be a big part of this slate and what we talk about, but we go position by position as we always do. Didn't see anything else that stood out from the actives and actives. Basically everybody who is expected to be in is in. Matthew Golden inactive, if anybody saw that one come through, but Romeo Doubs was somebody who was already popping in the sims. We can get into all of that, but anything about week 12 you want to touch on before we go to the quarterback position?
No, I think it's one of those slates where, number one, I'm surprised to see Josh Jacobs, not Josh Jacobs, excuse me. He's on the brain now. Jonathan Taylor be entirely unowned. I do think people have loved the experience. The last time we saw him play, it was not on the main slate, but he put up 50 fantasy points against Atlanta the last time he was in action. So the fact that he's so expensive, tough to get to, the Sims, you saw in the deeper dive show right before this, like you're really not getting Jacob. You're getting, keep saying Jacobs, kill me. Jonathan Taylor, you're not getting him in lineups right now. At all sim-wise, but I think if you force him in, there's some ways to make it work. But I feel like too, like receiver this week, and it might be, me trying to cram in the best plays, your Amon-Ra St. Browns, your Jahmyr Gibbs, who I love in the spot against the Giants, a situation we've capitalized a lot on the last few weeks. I think there's decent receiver value down the chain. You have the Jets guys being entirely free, and Tyrod Taylor, meaningful game for him coming back to Baltimore. Not a great total there, but that's one. You have Hodgins, who played well last week for the Giants. Getting Slayton in this week doesn't help him out, but he's probably just going to replace Jalen Hyatt in terms of that role. So Hodgins probably has a pretty good wide receiver 3 role in the spot where the Giants will probably be throwing from the moment that game starts. DeAndre Hopkins played 40 snaps last week. He's going against the Jets, and that's a pretty big total for Baltimore. And we have seen Hopkins have outlier success when he's played a lot. So there's ways to build this week that I think are really unique and fun. The Sims, though, will definitely give you a very similar build. And, it seems like the chalk is particularly strong this week.
I kind of love this on the single lineup sim where you're able to go game by game. You can add, hey, let's compare this game to this game. We can go into the wide receiver position here at numerous different spots. Kind of a fun thing to be able to share here on air with you. And again, if you guys are looking to sign up, if you're looking to take advantage of this throughout the show, there is a super easy way. Boom. Tough actin' Tenactin. Stokastic, friends. DraftKings, Underdog, Onyx Odds, as well as so many others on the left and right side of your screen. Better. I want to get better. BetMGM as well on the left side. Sportsbooks, pick'em sites, no matter what it is, if you guys sign up with any of them down at the description box below, you're going to get yourself a month of the Sims in the NFL streets. All you have to do is follow some simple instructions. Takes you about 2 minutes to be able to get the Sims here. Fire it over to our guy, the news god, Ron himself, absolute GOAT of the back end stuff that we've got going on here. Plus, you guys can stack those up. So if you sign up with Underdog, if you sign up with Better, that's 2 months to be able to take advantage of the Sims in the NFL streets. Say you're in the NBA streets as well, watching Spags and I on NBA Live Before Locks. Sign up, get yourself the NBA as well for a month. So check it all out. Great stuff. And now we begin our boarding walk. To the quarterback position we go. And again, just going to have everything kind of updated here on the back end shortly. So just bear with us. But Drake Maye, there's nothing that's going to change in terms of his ownership here. He gets the Cincinnati Bengals, who, let me count the ways in which they are terrible on the defensive side. Still no Hendrickson out there, the best defensive player by far on that side, although they have a cornerback that's kind of emerging somewhat. But Drake Maye, he's played MVP-style football. That's why he's your favorite to win such MVP. Number 1 seed in the AFC, if it were to start right now. Spags, Drake Maye chalk. It's always tough because Stephon Diggs doesn't see the field as much. He needs a big touchdown variance, going in his direction, unless he's playing the Bills, in which case he'll see volume out of the middle of nowhere. But how do you feel about Drake Maye? Double-digit ownership, 6,900.
Yeah, I'm not crazy about Drake Maye generally for the reasons you mentioned that, the stacking partners are sort of tough to figure out. Whenever you have a week where you have a pretty owned Diggs, pretty owned Hunter Henry, feels like you are begging the fantasy football gods for a good game for Kayshon Boutte. For Matt Collins has been in the mix with Boutte being out. For even Pop Douglas, who once got there playing like 16, 18 snaps, whatever it was, put up a real outlier day. That's sort of what the New England offense is. And now you also add your Ramondre back in for the running backs. It's just not really clean for anything you want to go to here. So that's always tough for me as someone that wants to prioritize game stacks. In particular, game stacks are underplayed generally in terms of the amount they make a top 1% of lineups each week and how much people actually play them. So that's always a priority for me. Obviously, you could pair Drake Maye with guys on the other side with decently owned Chase Brown. You want to pay down for Gesicki, you could do that. T. Higgins, obviously, priced up for no Jamar Chase, but still a guy you expect to be the top option there. It makes sense to go Drake Maye with opposite stuff, but his own teammates, I just feel like you're going to find a lot of lineups that even if it all hits, you have Drake Maye stacked with Diggs and he doesn't play well, or Drake Maye stacked with Henry and he gives you 2 points, gets smoked by Trey McBride. That's my concern for playing Drake Maye, even though beating up on Cincinnati, anybody could do it. And Drake Maye has certainly shown that upside.
Do you find it kind of wild that none of his stack partners are above 10% right now? That's the wild part to me, is that going up against Cincy, we've currently got Diggs sub 10%. We've currently got Hunter Henry sub 10%. It's pretty interesting as far as Drake Maye goes, just because of how low known they are. But there's no unique way that I'm going to go utilize a 11% Drake Maye on this slate. I don't find anything else. I was just kind of rotating through some of the other options. Kayshon Boutte, Matt Collins, nothing that really stands out because we have so many incredible game environments coming up that we'll talk about at the quarterback position. And we have one incredible team to talk about in the Lions that you kind of alluded to as well. Drake Maye's a luxury item. I really don't see myself getting up to the 10, 11% of him, but we just got done talking shit about all the pass catching options there for New England and how tough it is. Patrick Mahomes has been notoriously tough to put together with unique stack combinations. However, it is a must-win kind of gotta-have-it game for Kansas City. They take on this emerging Indy team that Daniel Jones continues to play pretty decently well, coming off of a bye here. Rashee Rice, he's kind of been your alpha here. Travis Kelce kind of been a reemergence, I guess, of Travis Kelce. He's had some really, really nice games of late, but what else do you do with Patrick Mahomes? Because he's somebody that, when I was running the Sims this morning, popped up a lot, and I don't know how much I love it at the moment. What's your take on Patrick Mahomes' outlook for Week 12?
Yeah, I'm a little bit low on Mahomes this week in terms of my actual exposures. Sim-wise, he is coming up more than the field. So that's always the first thing to keep in mind. No matter who's hosting here, whether it's Eric or me and, anybody else on the channel, really, like, defer to the Sims. We show you that for a reason, talk about it for a reason. And, Mahomes is coming up 17%, Fields at 12. So he does look like a good Sim play. That said, for me, I'm pretty comfortable paying down this week. I'm also comfortable getting less ownership and playing Lamar and Jalen Hurts at that same price tier, and knowing, that I have pretty reliable stack partners that I feel good about. Not that Mahomes doesn't with Rashee Rice, but from Mahomes, it's like you're going to get Rashee Rice with him. You're going to get Kelce with him. Worthy barely coming up, but I think that's justified. Certainly, you have the other guys rotating in, but it seems like if Rashee Rice gets there, that's going to be where most of the field is anyway. So I'm not sure what the upside really is in going to Mahomes. And frankly, I think the spot could play a little more defensively minded. I think at this point, the Colts and the Chiefs, even though it seems like the Colts have a much better pathway at this point to being a playoff team that matters, they are still like kind of both playoffy teams that should play more competitively on defense. Two teams that can be in the negative EPAs per dropback, negative EPA per pass category. And the Chiefs aren't so far this year, but they can get there. The Colts are to start the year. So I'm just not in love with that matchup as much as the field is. And I think that's okay, because that's what makes it unique. But sim-wise, Mahomes definitely seems like the priority at that price tier.
I'm going to make a little bit of room for Xavier Worthy. Rashee Rice, again, this is going to be interesting with Sauce Gardner there for Indy going forward, because, they kind of shore up some of their deficiencies that they had on one side of the line of scrimmage, at least. And I don't know what to make of Travis Kelce's ownership. Like, I'm having a tough time clicking on him today at 5K with some of the other tight end options. There's a tight end in this game that I prefer to him, and Tyler Warren at 4%, who just hasn't had like the, you got to have it game here of late. But I like the idea of Xavier Worthy. I like the idea of Rashee Rice, who's, going to pull ownership every single week, I think, understandably so. But bringing Mahomes along for the ride, we haven't had that massive Mahomes, breakout game here with everybody there. I think it's waiting in the wings, but yeah, I'm a little bit lower on it today as a whole because of some of the cheaper options. Just kind of seems to be the trend the last couple of weeks. We've just had amazing cheap quarterback options that we're going to discuss, and it makes it hard to go spend up for 6,900 Drake Maye, who does have a little bit of rushing equity, but Patrick Mahomes, even though I've seen rumblings, they're going to be without Isaiah Pacheco again, you got to bet rushing yards for Patrick Mahomes. I absolutely hate that idea, and I don't want any part of it. They're just luxury items, Spags.
I think that's fair. And look, I think, to me, I'm really comfortable paying down at QB this week as well. Like mentioned, you have kind of two pivots where you can go Lamar, you can go Hurts. And I think it's so rare to see Mahomes priced above those two guys that historically, ADP wise and best ball, I think in terms of how they're viewed, like those guys are top, three QBs, the elite QBs, Lamar and Hurts, and they are under the price tag of Mahomes. And both of them have like lights out matchups. And I think the Colts defense is a little bit better than people realize. So I'm cool moving away from Mahomes this week, but he comes up a lot sim-wise. Obviously, Rashee Rice, Kelce, your obvious chief stack. If it hits, maybe you get unique around that and you get away from the field. But I think the field certainly seems like they're going to be there pretty handily.
So these are all the quarterbacks that we have still that remain above. Oh, sorry. I think I can do it like a little zoom in. Can I get better at this? Oh, I can. There we are. Quarterback, 6K and above. Jared Goff. He looks pretty nifty at 10%. He gets the Giants in a dome. Jared Goff, dome and road splits, confirmed things at this point, Spags. We have enough sample size that, it's a small sample size game that we play, but in the NFL, Jared Goff, I think he's proven when in Detroit, when he's going to be, not even massive chalk here at 6K, I have to be playing some of that for sure. Daniel Jones, tough to get on in Arrowhead for me today. Going to be more of a Jonathan Taylor spot if I go to anything on that side of it. But now we get into this game environment where nobody wants to play Dak Prescott. Everybody wants to play Jalen Hurts. And Dak Prescott's been getting by on crazy efficiency. Took kneels at the end of the game. They could have pushed that to the limit and had an even bigger box score as it finishes out. And Philly, their defense is emerging, but you got to believe that I'm going to be over 1% Dak Prescott when push comes to shove. But I guess the guy that I like the most in the entire range, the one that I know I'm going to have north of 10%, is Jalen Hurts. We get super cheap stacking partners in A.J. Brown, Devonta Smith, and Dallas Goedert. We have a pretty reliable sample size of them exclusively going to those three. You have a little bit of guys mixing in here and there, but Saquon Barkley as well, another guy that I'm going to be over the field on. Philly's offense has been brutality, but in a dome in Dallas, I feel pretty good about this one, Spags. I don't think the ownership gets crazy. I think people are out on the Eagles offense, even though they've won 4 games in a row. You played to win the game. Duh. So yeah, I'm very high on him. Is there anybody on your screen that you feel like you're going to be way over the field on as well?
Yeah, I mean, I'm with you. Again, I prioritize Hurts and Lamar over Mahomes. I still got some amount of Mahomes because I'm not, going to like full fade him. I think when you're getting quality lineups and you feel like they're unique enough, you still play some of a guy. But for Lamar and Hurts, like I think with Lamar, you have the Zay stack there. You think Hopkins is fairly cheap, and the fact that he played 40 snaps last week really stands out to me, given the fact that he's facing the Jets. But I think really, to kind of try to cover Lamar and Hurts, I think, in one swath. They just have really good matchups. I mean, Hurts is facing a Dallas team, giving up 0.14 EPA per dropback, 0.16 EPA per pass. We're not talking about like the dead bottom of the league. We're talking about that tier, right above that. So not a good defense overall. They don't defend the run well either. So certainly Saquon can get going there. But it's a really good pass game matchup. And for whatever reason, like every month, Philly seems to restart the narrative of like, Jalen Hurts is an awful QB and he sucks. And it's like, we just had this a couple weeks ago against the Vikings, and that was a much worse spot. The narrative was there, and then they just kind of forced the pass game a little bit more. You had that Hurts double hitting. I think the Hurts double is in play. Like Eric mentioned, getting Goddard in there as well, I think looks pretty good. So it's just a soft matchup. Dallas, I think it's questionable if they hang in the entire game, if Philadelphia's defense really creates pressure. But I think it looks pretty good for Hurts. And then Lamar, you get the Jets side, where I think the Jets can hang in this game a little bit better with Tyrod than they might have with Justin Fields. God love him. I think he seems like a lovely guy off the field, but he really is not able to hang in the pocket and do stuff. But Lamar on that side, if they hang in at all, great. If they don't hang in, this might be a get well spot for Baltimore on their side. So I think that for how it looks, like those two guys look good to me. Goff, I worry about this a little bit, Eric, and it's kind of muted my Goff exposure. I think people are just going to overstack Detroit. Like they're just going to go, oh, cool. Everybody's playing Gibbs. Everybody's playing Amon-Ra. And I love those two guys, especially Gibbs. I think the natural assumption is, hey, let's add Goff on top. Let's put Jameson Williams with it. There's no Laporta here. We go crazy. The Lions love to put up a bunch of points. And I think you're just as likely to get it by like going max 1 of Amon-Ra and Gibbs and just trying to capture one guy have an outlier upside. Like I get going to Goff. I just feel like it's going to get overplayed. Like industry-wide too, you're getting a lot of Goff simming well. I think Goff, to me, for that reason, thinking the 4D chess-wise, maybe too obvious of a play.
First off, I love sharing this specifically, like going game by game and being able to have everything pop up. Again, the single lineup sim is the most underutilized tool that we have here at Stokastic. So please take advantage of it because, well, it's good times to be able to kind of rotate through, get an overhead view of each individual game. So yeah, utilize that as we're talking through some of this too, play along at home. But Jahmyr Gibbs, I mean, this is kind of like what you think about Dan Campbell calling the plays. I think Dan Campbell wants to put his foot on the gas nonstop. I can't imagine with Dan Campbell taking over play calling duties and having like outdoor. I mean, these are some tough spots that the Lions have kind of been dropped into. Obviously, taking on Philly, their defense is no joke right now. And obviously, that's why we're not seeing anybody playing Dak Prescott, even off of a Monday night. You would think there would be some type of a spike. But I mean, CeeDee Lamb's expensive. George Pickens is expensive. And just they're basically going to be bringbacks in some lineups for me. But I can't imagine people really want to go out of their way to pick on Philly. You saw some really interesting play calling there, 4th downs where Jahmyr Gibbs is getting inside handoffs that just it didn't feel special whatsoever. But I'm going to tune that up to Philly. I'm going to give them the credit for their defense looking much, much better. And I think now we have an opportunity to potentially I can't imagine many lineups I'm going to have today that don't have at least one of Gibbs, Brown, Jameson, Williams. What are the chances that one of those three just don't eviscerate the slate, Spags? I think it's very, very low. We can look at the boom bust tool. I mean, obviously their optimal percentages are there, but like there are so many lineups that they could show up in, and maybe they're not completely optimal, but there's going to be one of those three in the winning lineup a majority of the time you play out this slate. No doubt in my mind, especially if you're playing in tournaments that have less than 20,000, 25,000 entries. I love Gibbs and Amon-Ra St. Brown. So does the field. And I think that they're kind of dead on about that.
And I get it. I just think, to me, like at a certain point, I would rather play one of the guys having the outlier day, the other guys having a score that's good, but maybe replaceable, and you get it a little bit cheaper somewhere else. Like I think Amon-Ra in particular stands out, like the workload for him, since Campbell took over, and it certainly has been a priority. And by the way, chat projections did update, so people are freaking out about it. They had mostly, like everything was mostly correct in there, but they are updated. I'm sure ownership
wanted to get updated ownership was the main thing, because Wilson's going to come up from where he was, just purely has to. He has to.
Yeah. I mean, well, people don't love the Minnesota matchup. We'll see. He was at 20% before. If I had to guess, he gets like 30, but we'll see in a minute. But yeah, for the situation, like I agree, like it's obviously a great spot for the Lions. Dan Campbell going to call more aggressively, but like he has been favoring getting JMO going. The Giants are a team that you're really weak versus the run. My bet for today, and I certainly played enough of these guys. I tried to play them uniquely, but my bet is that Gibbs has like the outlier day here, and it's possible Montgomery. So. See, like if the Giants are all explosive plays, like they got Saquon going, they got McCaffrey going, they've gotten every running back to go against them go. They got Manun guy going, like he looked like the best running back in football, and he's like okay, like he's pretty good, but like he's not like that's what this defense is. So to me, Gibbs is the obvious one. I think getting Amon-Ra and Jameson Williams flattened out a little bit more would be logical to me. And then we can all watch Brock Wright and David Montgomery score 5 combined touchdowns today. But like, it's just, that's the way DFS goes. It's too much lines this week, I think.
Yeah, we need the Lions to play well if you're looking at my lineups here today, that's for sure. But as we continue on our merry way, we go sub 6K, and now is where I think the slate really starts as far as like building blocks. I love getting to the Gibbs and Amon-Ra St. Browns. Spags, they're expensive, and so I do find myself stacking up a lot of these pieces. I know there's a lot of guys on the screen right now, but I want to highlight Jacoby Brissett. The last couple weeks, he's just gone completely nuclear. And if you were to tell me one quarterback ends up much higher owned this week than anybody else, like that we have on our screen in terms of projections, Jacoby Brissett is the obvious candidate. Him and Michael Wilson and Greg Dortch, even Trey McBride, all of these guys went nuclear last week. 2 weeks ago in Seattle, they still won people a lot of tournaments. I'm nervous because I like them just like everybody else does this week, but Jacksonville just shut down a very pass-heavy Chargers offense. How do you feel about Jacoby Brissett and his ownership? Are you going to be eating this chalk?
I think Brissett's a good play, and I get it. Like he's coming up almost 2x the field in the semi just ran with the updated projections. I think it's a little too obvious, like after it just hit last week and the price tag is up. And I love Trey McBride. I think it's a really good McBride matchup. Jacksonville plays a lot of zone. Brissett has hung in against literally every team he's faced. Like I'm not critiquing Brissett as much as I am. I think there's opportunity to not play Brissett and go, a tier above and play your lower owned Daniel Jones, Jordan Love. I mean, Dak is not really coming up the sim, but I think he's playable to me. Like, I don't think you just have to live and die by Jacoby Brissett every week, even if you want to play the Cardinals double with Wilson and McBride, add another stack on top of that, get a little bit more unique. But like one of my general rules of thumb is that whenever the QB is sort of the cash game QB or, the game stacks occurring naturally, which you are getting, with Jacksonville and, Cardinal stuff, I think just not playing the QB is usually a decent move, even if the QB is solid. And Brissett, he created 2 30-point games, 35-point games for McBride and Wilson. Still only put up like 19 points. So you could have the double stack hit and beat him out with. You could beat him out with Shedeur Sanders. Maybe you could beat him out with Shuck. You could beat him out just any of the cheap guys. Kirk Cousins. You could beat him out with Tyrod Taylor. That's how I feel about the slate. Is like I think too much Brissett's going to get played. Even if you love the double stack, try something else.
You can't triple stack a double stack. You can't triple stack a double stack. We got ourselves somebody who loves me very much. Eric is a chalk god. Give me something my grandma don't like with Cardinals and Lions. Fine. I'll do that. Here's the thing. Last week, I didn't have a ton of Jacoby Brissett. I had tons of Michael Wilson and Trey McBride. There was no planet where I wasn't going to be jamming them. So if you want to call me a chalk donkey for playing really good plays way over the field, sure. Go ahead and do that. But yeah, there are unique ways of still taking the best plays. And that's what the Sims kind of have taught us, how to do things. Like you don't have to get crazy contrarian in every single lineup. Now, a lot of it can be dictated by what percentage goes to first, by what the cash rate is. Like we have so many different things that we can change about the Sims so that they cater the lineups to the contest you're playing in and give you the best chance to succeed. You don't have to get that crazy there. In the Milley Maker, there are opportunities that, you can really get contrarian and really make some stands. And that is where I am going to be going to a lot of Trevor Lawrence. They get Brenton Strange back, Chris Spags. it's this same Arizona offense on the other side. I like these individual pieces. I like Michael Wilson at his price. I like Trey McBride because I'm not an idiot. I like both of these a lot, but I am just flip-flopping that ownership you see on your screen right now between these two, and give me all the Trevor Lawrence this week. I get he's been brutal, but Jacoby Myers, he's there now. I like that as a cheaper piece to put together. Parker Washington, Penn State's finest, has shown out some really good, slate breaking performances. I get it. One was a return TD. You don't expect that kind of stuff, but 4.5 receptions, looking around the marketplace. I've done a lot of the research this week, Spags, and everything kind of has me landing on Trevor Lawrence as my highest owned QB of the week. What say you about him?
I mean, I'm curious, how much Trevor Lawrence would that be? Like, I know you're still massaging
21%.
27?
21.
21. Okay. I mean, I would say that's about what I'm getting. So I think we're approaching it differently, where I get it for Trevor Lawrence. I do think getting, Brian Thomas out, you should get Parker Washington, Jacoby Myers, your top options. Bretton Strange being back in, I think affects that a little bit as well. But stack partners fairly clear for Lawrence. It's not a bad matchup going against Arizona. Gives up a 0.07 EPA per dropback, 0.08 EPA per pass. I think a little bit worse than league average there. I just would rather play all the cheap guys. I'd rather roll the dice on Shedeur. I'd rather roll the dice on Kirk Cousins. Rather roll the dice on Shuck, Tyrod. Like, I get it. I think it's totally fair. But, industry wide, there are some projections out there that are putting Trevor Lawrence in the cash game lineup with the Arizona double. So I think you're going to get people playing Jacksonville stacks a little bit more, in particular with other providers out there that are pretty popular, because Lawrence comes up naturally. Then you get the Parker Washington as like your bring back to Michael Wilson and McBride being unfadable. So like those things to me are like, I think the field's going to be there a little bit too much. And I'm just not a Trevor Lawrence guy either. Like, I know he's had, the rushing upside in particular makes him like a slate breaking kind of QB, but then what's the point of stacking him, I guess, if that's what he needs to get there. Shuck and Shedeur and those guys, Shuck and the gang, they're not good QBs, but they're all super cheap.
Yeah. I mean, just to round out the 5K range, I have a little Flacco, a little Darnold. Darnold could not have looked worse against the Rams. He sees ghosts when he plays the Rams. I was at that game in Arizona last year when they took out the Rams because of the fires in California. And boy, do I wish I hadn't gone to that game and spent a berserk amount of money to be able to go attend a massacre of my Vikings. And then obviously Sam Darnold, fortunately didn't go to that one this week, just played for the different team. But Sam Darnold overall, I think he's a much better quarterback than that. Obviously, you're pairing him with Jackson Smith and Jigba. There's not a planet where I'm not pairing him with him. It's just, what else do I want to throw together with him? How do I put together Sam Darnold doubles? Do I even need to put together Sam Darnold doubles? I think I do, purely because if they're going to beat out some of these cheapies we're about to talk about, you'd need to put up that big performance. But Joe Flacco, yeah, Caleb Williams, yeah, they're fine, but I can't really make a stand for them when we have so many cheap guys to kind of rotate through that make my lineups look way better, Spags.
Yeah, I'm on the same page as you. I mean, I think Caleb will be a forgotten man in the slate for the most part. Like, Stokastic has him for 5% ownership. I feel like that might even be a little bit aggressive, but like Love, Flacco, Caleb, all these guys under 5, I think they stand out a little bit as like the projection's better than the ownership that they're getting right now, but they deserve. So I think for those guys, just getting away from Brissett, going to them, logical enough. I'm willing to go, the dumpster dive tier, but I think it's important to clarify, like the only dumpster dive QB you get, naturally at the sim was 25% to first, no unique set. You got Shuck. You don't really get the shitty guys. Yep. So it does seem like if you're playing things a little bit closer to the cloth for the sim, taking your Caleb's, taking your Loves, taking your Flaccos instead of full dumpster diving might be the move.
Well, let's full dumpster dive because they're on your screen, Spags. And I guess we can't even get all of them on the screen because 4,200 Shedeur Sanders sits there at the basement, 0.4% owned. I don't know what to make of Kevin Stefanski, but he absolutely hates Shedeur Sanders. I don't think there's any question about that. You can say what you want. I don't think Shedeur is very good, but I also don't think he's being put in a very good situation right now, based off of what we saw in the preseason. And then just, apparently didn't even get all of the first team reps this week, which makes absolutely no sense to me when he's the only quarterback alive this week, but such is life. Let's talk about a lot of these major options. Tyler Shuck, you brought him up. Against Atlanta, this sieve of a defense, it's been horrendous. You just saw them give up 400 plus yards to Bryce Young and company. Ted McMillan could not be stopped. Is it Tyler Shuck that you're getting to the most in this range? Because, I mean, it is a weird click, but I think it is a great click considering it's in the afternoon window. I love my late swap ability. How much Tyler Shuck are you looking at?
So for me, and I'm kind of going through my lineups on where I have them saved right now. I've got 11% Shuck, so definitely going heavy there.
That's big.
I am going to have a little bit less than that of Tyrod, similar amounts down the chain of Kirk and those guys. And, it's all different weights. Forced in some Shador. I just think it's a week here where we have a lot of guys that have really good defensive matchups for the shitty QB tier where, for Atlanta, Kirk Cousins, you have a team in New Orleans that defends the run really well, including in the red zone. They're actually like the best red zone run defense in football. But, Kirk has looked awful visually. I get it. But they've had talk this week. Both the OC and Kirk Cousins have talked about, force feeding Darnell Mooney a little bit more. I think that stack works. On the Shuck side, if you want to go with him, just him to Olave, easy partners to have here. It is a very man defense heavy Atlanta matchup. And Olave on the year getting targeted 32% of the time. He's running a route versus man. They have nobody else left to throw the ball to really at this point besides Juwan Johnson, I guess. So I think for Olave, it's a nice spot there. But really, you can go down the line. I think all these guys are credible to varying degrees. But sim-wise, you're getting Shuck at 7%, Fields at 3%. So he's the one that I think is fully vetted here and balanced out. But these guys, to me, it's a dumpster dive QB kind of week. And I think one of them hits, whether it's the ones that I'm playing the most of or not. I guess we'll see.
Who are you playing the most of again? You said 11% Shuck. I didn't hear the rest of it.
So let's see. I've got 11% there. Let me see if I can sort by QB here because I have my stuff on DK. I've got Shuck at actually, no, I've got Cousins at 5. I've got Shuck at 11. I've got Mason Rudolph at 9. I've got Jameis at 5.
Mm-hmm.
I got Tyrod at about 9, 10. Yes, a lot of these guys, we're just shaking the dice. We're rolling it.
Mason Rudolph, 3-man. Oh yeah. I've got some disturbing Mason Rudolph stuff that I'm looking at, and I kind of love it. Complete onslaught. Aaron Rodgers, Kirk Cousins. I mean, I think there are some dusty QBs who have been around, and Mason Rudolph, I think he's proven he's not exactly the answer by any means, unless, maybe it was just getting his head bashed in, like it was the snake versus the mountain by Mr. Garrett, Myles Garrett, just coming at him. Probably the most famous part of Mason Rudolph's NFL career, but I do like him a lot for triples here. This Chicago defense is not good. JJ McCarthy made them look way better than what they are last week. He made some horrendous throws if you watch that game. Unfortunately, I'm a Vikings fan and life is meaningless and time is an illusion. But Mason Rudolph, I think, looks great in this spot. No weather concerns whatsoever. And Jameis Winston as well in that same zone. If he's playing catch up, that's the best version of Jameis Winston. And well, I think we all expect him to play catch up today, Spags. So it's just a terrible receiving core. He's throwing to Theo Johnson. He's throwing to Wan'Dale Robinson. He's throwing to Darius Slayton. What a time to be alive.
Yeah, and for Rudolph too, I think just one thing to tie the bow on him as best we can. Yeah, there was a couple of years ago, and people who are playing DFS now might not remember it because I know sometimes that happens, but he fed George Pickens about as well as he's been fed in his career. That was one of the things where Pickens was so unhappy with Pickett starting before, and it was one of those things where Rudolph, I guess, it was really meaningful how that workload went. And I think for DK Metcalf, a guy that struggled to find that connection downfield with Aaron Rodgers, I think you're going to get, Rudolph standing in the pocket. I mean, Rodgers this year has been like a pure check down merchant. Rudolph will hand the ball off so often and take, nothing passes so often, but he'll get those deep shots downfield. And I think him and Metcalf alone, I don't even think you need to go crazy. I think that single stack just won't be crazily owned.
Yeah, I'm going to go a little crazy with it purely because if the Bears defense gives it up here, he's so cheap and the pass catchers are kind of at where I'd expect their floors to kind of be at. I mean, I don't know why I'm on this screen. I could probably pull that up here while I'm talking about it. I like a lot of these stack partners that we're getting for him. You look at DK Metcalf, as you said, there's just not a lot of ownership coming in on this game whatsoever. And I kind of think it has crazy shootout potential. I like the Jaylen Warren piece, even with Mason Rudolph, more than involved enough in the passing game to kind of make it work. Calvin Austin's kind of gone to the side for Roman Wilson. Roman Wilson at a flat 3K, I think, is my favorite flat 3K guy to take shots on. And then Pat Freiermuth, Jonnu Smith, nothing's all that great because you just have like a three-headed monster, but you get Darnell Washington's involvement at the goal line and mean, he's made some absolute truck stick circle, Heisman type stiff arms of late that are just fun to watch. He's an awesome football player to have out there. Glad to see him playing more and more as the weeks go on. To some extent, I guess he had been phased out a little bit there for a while, but Pat Freiermuth, Jonnu Smith, tough to get to entirely, but I mean, everybody's kind of in play there and everybody's super cheap, Spags. So yeah, it's partially because of the price, but also partially because I want to attack the Bears defense when nobody else is.
No, and I think that's totally fair. And again, Rudolph, I thought he had a shot before they got Rodgers to start this year, and I kind of thought he'd be undervalued if he were to start because he's nothing special, but he does create value for stack partners, and that's one of those things where when that pays off, the QB being mediocre might not matter if he could still create spike weeks. For your previously your Pickens types, but this year your Freiermuth, Jonnu, and Metcalf types. Roman Wilson pulling ahead, getting double the snaps of Calvin Austin last week. There's options. I just always worry that you get the random chopped up tight end touchdowns, but that's more of a Rodgers thing, I think, than it is a Rudolph thing.
Yep, that's fair. That's very fair. Brad Kaufman, 3582, $1.99 super chat. Thank you, everybody, for supporting the channel. We've got a lot of questions that came in. I'll make sure I highlight on all of them. Sometimes, we're going position by position and I can cover them when we get there, but I want to throw these out for the people because we just covered a lot of the stacks we like. Best single entry stack, $50 on FanDuel today, Spags.
I would have here. Let me pull up FanDuel data, but I'm not playing FanDuel today, so I don't have that in front of me.
Yep, I got the FanDuel slate, just switched and toggled over to it for today. I like the idea of getting to the expensive Goff. People aren't really doing that, and touchdowns are king on FanDuel with some of your stack partners there. I think there's ways of being able to stack up the Lions in unique ways still that I think make some sense because FanDuel, you're getting it's an 8K Jared Goff that you're paying for. Not nearly as popular. They're sitting sub 9%. Yeah. And then some of the other stack partners that come along with him, Jameson Williams, 7,100. That just doesn't feel like a click people are going to make as much in single entry. And on DraftKings, they make it so damn easy to get to Jameson Williams still sub 6K, completely different role without Sam Laporta there for every pass catcher. I really like the Lions more on FanDuel than I do on DraftKings as a stack.
Yeah, looking at the top stacks tool, the fact you have 10% ownership for Goff, but a 15%-ish chance to be the top stack that does stand out. Everybody else, Mahomes looks a little bit overowned. Jacoby Brissett looks pretty overowned, appreciably. Even, Hurts, I would say more 1-to-1. Darnold seems to be a noteworthy play. The salary is a little bit more affordable there, it seems like, across the board for the stack. And Flacco seems like Lamar also looks like really overowned on FanDuel, which surprises me, but he hasn't been running as much this year, too.
Good 23 $2 super chat. 6,300 left on DK for wide receiver. Can you give the top three options? Well, you know what? That's exactly what I can do right here. I can sort by salary. Again, now that I also figured out the exact button click I can have to share this directly on screen, look at me go. Nobody gives a shit. Good to know. George Pickens sitting there a little bit too expensive above that threshold. Zay Flowers, the first guy that shows up there. Rome Odunze, Michael Pittman. Not in love with all of them. My favorites show up down here. So maybe you're leaving a little bit more salary than you'd like, but I have no problem leaving 500-600 on the table if need be. AJ Brown, Jameson Williams, Devonta Smith. Those are the three. I know they're the most popular of the guys I talked about, but if you're leaving that salary on the table, there's a good chance you're still unique. Spags, who are your favorites?
I think Zay would be the one that projects the best in the matchup. Makes total sense to me. I think Odunze is interesting. It is a man defense heavy matchup he'll be going against, and that's really where he's had his best success on the year. So he'd be my lower owned option. But AJ Brown, Jameson Williams, I think if you're going to the stack more so, those guys make sense. If you're not playing Amon-Ra, I think JMO should be definitely more of a priority.
All right, $2 super chat from Corey Ballmer, and then we'll get to the running back position. We're making pretty good time still. 42 minutes? We have all the ownership and everything updated. Life is beautiful. Corey Ballmer, though, favorite 3,300 and under, Mechie, Mitchell, or other. So the Jets have some disparaging options here at the wide receiver position. Adonai Mitchell, we've got, just some absolute ridiculousness on this game. But Isaiah Williams there, no thank you. It's basically Mechie or pass if you're going to be going anywhere there. But 3,300 opens up the tight end position, which I think is probably the optimal way to go about it this week because we have some guys we can rotate in. Nobody projects all that well, but AJ Barner, Brenton Strange. Oh, he's $100 too much. That's a bummer because I do like Brenton Strange a lot. I think we've already alluded to that. But Noah Fant, Wanta Fanta. Not great to have Mike Gesicki back, but great game environment. Something that I think you could get down with your bad self on. Favorite 3,300 or under option to round out his lineup, Spags.
Oh, there's so many. So this is the area, that I love this week.
Oh, no.
Yeah, Hopkins 3,300. Played 40
boy.
snaps last week. He's facing the Jets. I think he's the one piece of the Ravens that's going to be unowned, it seems like, or really not come up with a ton of frequency. Hodgins 3,300. Played a ton of snaps last week. Slayton coming back in shouldn't affect him. He should just eat the Jalen Hyatt routes. Hodgins was really, I think, had 5 catches in that game. Like, was more involved than he probably should have been. Was very involved. Mechie, I think, is a little bit safer than AD Mitchell. But Mitchell's upside should be better. He basically took Arian Smith snaps last week. If you want to go with the Jets dumpster dive as well, you have the wide receiver 3, Isaiah Williams, who was a flat minimum too. But there are a lot of options, Eric, and I think it's a lovely place to be this week. It allows you, if you play one of those guys as a receiver, to put in the flex being one of the good running backs, play with Trey McBride, play with Gibbs. So I don't want to give away my whole lineup here because, then we'll all be duping atop the tournaments today, Eric. But I think there's a lot of...
Yeah, I was going to say, nice of you to be donating your money before Christmas. That's very sweet of you. You can save that for a little while. That's all right. We can save that for tax writing purposes in April. That'd be great. One more super chat that came in during our show. Given Shedeur had not had a proper first team snaps before this week. Yeah, I alluded to that a second ago. Can he realistically go over 150 passing yards? He's sitting a little bit above that. I believe it was like 156.5 was the primary number in the back of my head. I hate that I do this every single week, and I know these numbers off the top of my head, but I know that's kind of been the range it's been at all week. I have stayed far, far away from this. I have no idea whether or not they're going to give him any kind of leash. And I mean, it kind of makes it an intriguing play to some extent. We got that note right ahead of time that, like when we came onto the show, that they're going to give him some deep shots. Well, no shit. He's playing NFL quarterback. Like, what are you going to do? Not let him throw entirely? Like, what is this? The Denver situation where they had to start a wide receiver at quarterback? Like, what are we actually doing here? Like, of course they're going to take a shot or two, but I don't feel good about Shedeur in any way, shape, or form because Stefanski hates him.
I feel sub 5% ownership good about Shedeur. I think so. One thing that came out this week, and one of my favorite pieces of content in the week, and not because it's like so good, is the Diana Rossini rumor wrap up on The Athletic, where it is an awful piece of content where she pretends to report things that are accurate. And she was like, the Mike Silver thing that broke about Brandon Ayuk this week. He's a guy that's got been connected with the Shanahan tree for a while. And then she's like, as Mike Silver and I reported, it's like, he did the report. He wrote books about Shanahan. He did it. And then she also wrote that this week, Shedeur apparently has been in the building, like open to close, has been pals with Kevin Stefanski, asking him a ton of questions. Shedeur has put the work in. The Diana Rossini part aside, I think this actually is a not bad spot for Shedeur to get rolled out. It is a good matchup going against the Raiders defense. Bad EPA per dropback at 0.1, bad EPA per pass at 0.11. It's also a thing for Shedeur where I think he needs that prep work. He needs the week of full time. Him coming in last week going 4 for 16. It seems like people aren't off the scent because the chat's like, we got to play some Cleveland and Shedeur. But I do think he'll be better this week. I don't know if he's going to be good enough for fantasy is really the big concern. He wasn't a super interesting fantasy QB at Colorado. Like, didn't really take downfield shots, played within the system. But I think he's got his best shot to play within the system in this matchup. And for him having a full week of prep, getting the first team reps for the first time this year. And according to Diana Rossini, treating it like a final exam, Eric. So I think for him, I think if you're going to play Shedeur, this is a week to do it. He's 4,200. It's like, play a little bit, have some fun. Why not?
This just in, multimillionaire quarterback is going to try this week. Like, no shit. I mean, some of that stuff. But also be careful whenever you bring up the reporting of certain things like that, because I still, a month later, get people being like, but you like Mita Kimes, so you suck. I'm like, Mita Kimes is sharp, whatever. I'm not going to even go back down that rabbit hole. Don't even want to open it up. All right, now we got a timely super chat. Brandon Mahler, 9786. Thank you, everybody, for these super chats. Really appreciate everybody. Would a Geno stack with Genty and Bowers be crazy? Absolutely not. In fact, the running back position, it has some chalk, and we can start with the chalk, but I am a Genty stan today, and I am not an Ashton Genty fan. I think Spags know that. I think anybody who's watched me do content all year. There's one time that I played Ashton Genty. It went really, really well. I haven't played him since. I am playing a lot of Ashton Genty today purely because volume is king and you could have some blow up potential. I like the Raiders as kind of a defense to get contrarian with as well, in the case that Shedeur is just absolutely terrible. But The running back position begins with Jahmyr Gibbs, Chase Brown, Emmanuel Wilson. Wilson didn't come up as much as I expected, but I'm very markedly out on one running back in this trio. Can you guess which one it is?
Bijan?
No. Out of the trio up top. I was talking
Emmanuel
about
Wilson. Are you being a homer?
guys. I'm not a Chase Brown guy today, but we'll get into that, I suppose.
Oh, that's funny because usually you love
really
Chase
good.
Brown.
I love Chase Brown. He's popular this week. I loved Chase Brown at 8%, 10% Spags. I'm not a chalk donkey. I'm not going to play Chase Brown and force him in because I assume Joe Flacco is going to be a dump-off king. I'm not going to play him this week against a New England defense that's sixth best at giving up fantasy points to the running back position, the fewest amount of rushing TDs in the entire NFL. Why is Chase Brown chalk this week other than the fact that he has most of the backfield? And we've seen Pirine mix in more at times randomly, just random, pull the rug out from underneath him. You know Gibbs is good enough that it doesn't matter. You know Emmanuel Wilson is the only running back with a pulse there. Why is Chase Brown chalk?
It's because Pirine's not playing, so that's probably a big part of it.
That's probably why. But I'm just saying, randomly just getting mixed in, guys. I just hate it. I don't like Chase Brown chalk this week. Sorry.
You know, it's 2 straight weeks over 50 snaps for him with Pirine being banged up and that he played like 1 snap and then was out. And then last week was out. So I get it. I think the Patriots run defense matchup, I mean, it's been a thing for Vrabel teams in general. They are better against the run than not. It's getting a little bit less, of a tough matchup week to week. They're down to a negative 0.01 EPA per rush. They also are giving up a lot of RB targets, a 18% target rate to running backs. So I think there's a case for Chase Brown. Normally, I would agree with you, though, when the player is going to be super highly owned. And there is sort of an argument you could point to, like, oh, this team usually stops the run. Why is this guy mega chalk? I'd be willing to do it, but the sim ownership for Chase Brown's got more reasonable. On Friday, when I did my splash play must play stream, he was coming up 95% of the sim, and I was like, fuck this. Like, this is not. I don't want Chase Brown that much. Now at 50, the field at 25, and I think I've heard enough, takes similar to yours. People are like, well, New England's really good. They're missing Milton Williams, who was their big acquisition that's been helping them stop the run too. And one guy doesn't determine a run defense, but it helps. But the full snap count, missing out on Jamar Chase, who does sometimes take those wheel routes away that could go to Chase Brown instead. The sim just loves him. I mean, industry-wide, everything loves him. To me, that's the reason, maybe don't put Chase Brown in everywhere, is that he's going to come up really easily to anybody using projections. But I do think he's a decent enough play. So I'll defend him today from you. I'll be chasing Brown here this week.
And I'm a huge Chase Brown guy. I have him in every year-long team. He's has to be my highest owned running back in best ball. I haven't looked in a while because, well, most of my best ball teams suck. But I'm very much against the Chase Brown chalk this week. Emmanuel Wilson, $5,300, $900 less, gives me a lot of savings. Jahmyr Gibbs, not really unfadable, I would call him. Bijan Robinson completely depends on how my lineups are doing early. I'm sure I could end up on more or less based on that, but Ashton Genty is kind of where I'm planting my flag this week. $6,300. He's $100 away from Chase Brown, like the identical price tag. So any lineup that I'm looking at in the Sims that has some Chase Brown that I'm kind of interested in or stacks, I'm just doing the 1-for-1 swap mostly. I've got 10% Chase Brown, so not completely fading at the moment. Maybe I give him a tap up and just go, undercut the field by half and call it a day. I am 3x on Ashton Genty. I have north of 33% Ashton Genty in over a third of my lineups. Why am I a crazy person, Spags?
I mean, so is it that you like Genty so much, or is it just an anti-Chase Brown stand?
I'm playing so much Raiders defense. I'm playing a ton of Raiders defense. This is kind of my stand against the Browns offense, and I just kind of want the massive correlation, even if this is like a 14-7 game, 14-10 game, which it has a very live chance of doing. Ashton Genty is so certain in terms of workload for a bad team. And we don't get a lot of that where you get like this cheaper defense alongside a 6,300. And it's just such a great pivot off of like the identical situation in my eyes to Chase Brown. It's like the identical 1-for-1 at a third of the ownership. So I'm basically flip-flopping their ownership right now. And I have no problem with it. And I'm not a Genty guy by any means, but you look at their props, you look at their anytime touchdown numbers, everything's identical except for receiving volume expected for Chase Brown. That is the difference. And on DraftKings, I get it. That's a huge thing. But if I run touchdown hot with Ashton Genty today, I'm going to be in a really, really good spot in tournaments.
So I think that's not unreasonable. Anything you could make that pivot, off the ownership. Like, to me, the thing that I would push back on is that. So I think the Raiders defense will get some points today because Shador, like Ben pointed out on the Deeper Dive show, but like he does take some bad sacks. He kind of plays like a Madden player, like where he'll drop back 15 yards for no reason because he hopes he could still get the ball downfield. And then in the NFL, he's going to take some really bad losses on sacks. So like that I'm on board with. I think the correlation is fine. I think if you're going to fade Chase Brown, though, I would play Breece Hall at 6,100. I would take the shot that Tyrod makes that offense run better. Gets a Ravens team that I think is a little bit overrated. I would buy the flop flag on Jalen Warren, go back to him at 6,600. I would go Quinshon Judkins at 6K and also, play that same game environment. The other side, I like Genty, but Cleveland's good, and that Raiders O-line is so bad, and Geno is putting them in no position to succeed either, that I feel like just going ham on Genty. Like, I think you're halfway there on like the good, like anti-chalk donkey stand. And then you're playing like, you're playing the stupidest, dumbest way around it.
I love you. You always hold me up in high regard. You always set me up to succeed. Chris Spags, I appreciate you. Thanks, pal.
You're a big Genty guy. You've been clear about that.
Eric, yeah, that's me. Noted Genty stan, noted Brown hater. Literally, it's 1 week, and it's just the DFS is so beautiful for this. This is why it's so fun to me. This is why we do this every single week, because it's a different problem to solve every single time. And I try to do the best I can not to have preconceived notions of I'm just going to eat this chalk. I'm just going to eat that chalk. I let the Sims do a lot of the work for me, but there's still a part of me that just looks at the situation and the numbers, and I get the projection that we have. I mean, what is it? 1.5 fantasy points is going to dictate 30% difference between me going Brown and Genty. It just feels a little bit off to me. So that's all I wanted to say. Congratulations to Chase Brown on 180 and 2 touchdowns. My year-long teams will be glorious. I will be making hundreds of dollars in those streets and losing thousands of dollars in these streets. Don't mind me. Whatever. Derrick Henry, how do you feel about him as a double-digit favorite today? How do you feel about some of these other running backs pulling a little bit of ownership? Nothing crazy whatsoever, but I mean, this feels like if there was going to be a Derrick Henry week, you've talked about how it's fallen off to some extent. This feels like it would be the Derrick Henry week. We have expensive Jonathan Taylor. It's really hard to get there against the Chiefs. Bijan Robinson's been awesome, but, is this going to be the spot against New Orleans? I'm not positive. New Orleans defense looked more functional last week. Helps to play absolute idiots, but, it is what it is. How do you feel about some of these expensive running backs that are pulling double-digit ownership, Spags?
Yeah, I got a good amount of Gibbs and Bijan. I also did force my way to 10% of Jonathan Taylor, which the Sims were not the most accommodating on getting to because he's really expensive and it's not the best matchup or team total on paper. But I do think, paying up this week at RB when a lot of the field will be on Chase Brown, a lot of the field, will be on Emmanuel Wilson. I think those guys are solid plays. Like, we could joke or whatever about, that price here and Eric, willingly giving you guys money this week by playing Ashton Genty over Chase Brown. But I think Chase Brown's probably giving you like 15 to 20 fantasy points. I don't think he's like, I think in that respect, you're right that he's probably not like going to break the slate. But I think what's more likely is that Chase Brown gives you the upside to get to guys around that. That said, what if the spike week games come from Bijan, from, Gibbs is going to be more than owned, from Jonathan Taylor, people aren't there as much. So it's part of why I am getting the dumpster dive QBs and receivers a little bit more. Obviously, that's my form of not playing Chase Brown today is how I'll give you guys my money. But I think for how it looks like, paying up for RB when the chalk's going to be mid-tier, not super talented RBs, that's never a bad thing.
Never a bad thing, Specs. No. And again, we appreciate all the donations. You can just send me on Venmo, Zelle, whatever your preferred payment.
You can send them back and forth. You for Chase Brown and me for...
It's so ironic. It's just hilarious that I'm against Chase Brown this week because I have been playing this guy, this idiot, all year nonstop. And he's been fine and just no slate breaking performances, but now he's chalk and it just terrifies me because of course this will be the week he randomly goes completely nutties. But how do you feel about this New England running back situation? Because this one is probably the most interesting to me on the entire slate. We've got Chase Brown, obviously. So just negate the fact that everybody who's playing him is dead. Travion Henderson and Ramondre Stevenson. We haven't seen this since Henderson went completely nuts. One, do you think Vrabel continues to ride the hot hand? Or, I guess Henderson's not like he went that hot. He just went touchdown hot. But two, Ramondre Stevenson, how much work do you see him getting here? Do they completely go back to the other side of the equation? And is it a Ramondre Stevenson week at sub 1% ownership? Because I think either one of them could have a nuclear game and it wouldn't surprise me.
I think we're in the same spot for New England that we've been at with Chicago. For to me, the last couple of weeks, where Monangai, when we had Swift out, he earned too much of a role. Now became a hot hand backfield. Same thing with Stevenson out. And look, Stevenson, I agree with the public that Henderson is clearly a more explosive back. I think he's not maybe as special. Like Bill Simmons at one point was like, his floor is Jahmyr Gibbs, and it's like this is not what we're getting here. He's not. It was actually a thing that he said.
That's the dumbest thing I've ever heard. Continue.
Yeah. And I love Bill Simmons, but that's the kind of thing that's like Patriot homerism run amok, but it was also like, best ball fantasy redraft people as well run amok. He's not that special. Like he doesn't miss a lot of tackles. He is crazy fast, crazy athletic. But like having Stevenson back in, there are clearly things that Stevenson does that they trust a little bit more. I think that Henderson probably pulled ahead of him in the pecking order, but I don't see it being like Henderson gets 75% of the work. And frankly, he's not efficient enough. Like he got there because he got endless red zone work. The 1 week that he scored the 3 touchdowns, he got there because he broke big plays after Stephon Diggs. Like it's like you're not playing well at halftime, and then he ran for long touchdowns. It's like weird situations that have led him to spike an upside. Bringing in any inhibitor to that, I don't think is good. So I just didn't play the New England guys this week. If Henderson goes nuts, more power to you guys. You get it right at very little ownership. I think you just ignore those spots if you can, because there's so many good spots on a slate.
Dude, I'm loving sharing this single lineup sim and doing it this way. This is like more enjoyable for me because we can kind of bounce around and do what we want rather than me just sharing the ownership with you. Plus, then you guys have to utilize the sims yourself. You have to be able to utilize the power of them again. And one more time for the people in the back, the link join is the best way to do that. We have so many screenshots from this entire year. We have recent Milley winners. You can check it out. Demi Park, absolutely absurd W there. A Milley takedown, a Milley. Brissett, triple. Man, that was beautiful to look at and wake up to. We got ourselves Gallagher. Oh, that is beautiful from Kevin here as well. 2K showdown takedowns, the showdown sims up to 50,000 times. You can utilize the sims and the lineups. And it's not just the Milley scores. It's not just the, 6-digit scores. It's these kind of scores as well. The crazy AFWs for Ralph Meff here. $400 takedown for him as well. It's all relative, my friends, and we can help you make money no matter what level of DFS you're at here at Stokastic. And when you utilize these sims, you're going to be putting yourself in a better position week in, week out to make yourself some of that money yourself. Utilize the sign-up codes down below. Check it all out here at Stokastic. A free month of the Sims for every partner you sign up for on your screen, on the left side, on the right side. Social sports books, Onyx odds, things of that nature. Pick 6 in the Pick'em streets. Better as well. We've got so many ways for you to sign up. So many ways to get it completely free for a month just by checking out these offers with some of our partners. So that does it for us. In those streets, we continue on sharing the single lineup Sims. Any other running backs you want to highlight? Because there's one guy that is not pulling any ownership that I definitely want to talk about because I need your take before I actually click submit on some of these lineups. What do you think about the Arizona backfield? Is this a chance that we get all the Bam Knight and all the land? Because he is pulling, I believe, no ownership. You know how much Arizona Jacksonville I'm on for this week. Answers a lot. I think Zonovan Knight is kind of an interesting tournament play if you're trying to go sub 5K. If you want to get to the Amon-Ra St. Browns at the wide receiver position, the Trey McBrides, I think mixing one cheap running back in is kind of interesting. I think he might have the entire backfield for 1 week before Trey Benson gets back.
I mean, it seems possible. Getting DeMercado out definitely seems like a bigger blocker than, Michael Carter's status, whatever that means right now. I'm not crazy about the matchup against Jacksonville. They are a defense that I tend to think is a little bit overrated. They've run hot on picks, which has been part of how they've had success. And they are a negative EPA per run defense, like negative 0.04. The big thing for me is I trust, this is how we lose all the money. But I trust Emmanuel Wilson. I think is how I feel about it at that price range where him and David Montgomery came up a lot for me. So I think in lineups without Wilson, I'm getting Montgomery. If I'm not getting Gibbs as well, getting Montgomery feels like the right thing to do choice wise here. I don't feel like, and I got Kareem Hunt a little bit as well. Yes. So I think that's part of it. I'm not getting the Bam Knight for that reason, but I don't begrudge you doing it. I just think I feel better about the Wilson, Montgomery, Hunt. And I got good amount of those guys. Definitely more Hunt than I thought I would get on the slate because I got 5 to 10. 5,100.
I totally get it. 5,300 for David Montgomery. I think both of them just kind of slide in easily to lineups. And, the 9% number, there's only so many guys you can play. Emmanuel Wilson, we both agree, by far the best chalk amongst those low 5K guys.
Yeah. I mean, I definitely, I am getting more above the field on Montgomery than Wilson, but like Wilson, I'm getting the most of out of almost anybody on the slate.
Yeah. And then we get some luxury items. Again, we talked about the Travion Henderson thing. I had to force myself to get to a couple shares of Ramondre Stevenson. I've seen this movie 8 times this year. I've seen this movie. Mike Vrabel would make out with Ramondre Stevenson in the streets celebrating New Year's. That's how much he loves him. It is what it is, friends. We are going to click on Ramondre Stevenson in 1% of lineups at sub 1% ownership. It is what it is. I'm more than willing to sacrifice those to the gods. We got Tajay Spears, I think is like a guy to take a dart shot or two on. I mean, how much Tony Pollard do you really want to play going forward? We've seen Tajay Spears emerge at the end of seasons for Tennessee time in, time out. But again, these are not guys I'm making any kind of a market stand on. Tootin, if you told me I got the same workload as last week, sure, I'd play a ton, but I'm not positive that that's going to be the case. And we have so many other spots like Zonovan Knight, who's $300 more, where I can just say there's not a lot else there. Michael Carter, he'll be involved in the passing game, but that's about it. And I think there's a number of other guys that we can kind of say, like Jaylen Warren. We had a lot of Jaylen Warren last time around. He ends up getting dinged up, and it becomes Kenneth Gainwell. Gainwell's just kind of a thorn in the side there as well. I'm not really willing to embrace it as much there. I'm more on the Mason Rudolph side of things. We've talked about that. But any other running backs you want to highlight before jumping to wide receiver?
I think the Seattle thing with Walker and Charbonnet to me feels kind of like how I felt about Henderson and Ramondre and Swift and Monungai, where it's just not a clear enough role. And I think for main slates, you can kind of avoid, for the most part, those ambiguous roles and be better for your portfolio as a result. But I do think Walker coming up in the sim, 7%, I get it. Charbonnet coming up, not at all. He does gain most of your short down and distance touches. You're close to the goal line touches. So if you want to play one of those guys going against Tennessee, I wouldn't blame you. But I didn't get there as much because of the fact that it's to me, a very obviously split backfield. But those guys, I think, playable, and I think they have the best shot of there being an outlier day. Alvin Kamara, the Sims liked earlier in the week. I feel like an industry-wide Sims like him as well. But he was banged up this week, and we're now post-bye. Devin Neal getting more involved might be a thing. So Kamara, to me, not really that guy. But yeah, there's like a lot of guys who can play on the slate, Eric. I feel like that's, you clearly have made some preferences that I don't share, but I think there's like a lot of options for people to play, anybody.
That's, you want to be on the right side of history. And that's really all we've learned today is that, follow us for all of our great DFS content. I'm jamming Ashton Genty and not playing the chalky Pig Brown. And you're playing guys you've never heard of at the wide receiver.
That we're not starters to start the year. Weren't even close. We're on the active roster. Yeah, we're doing great.
We are so fucked. All right. Fantasy Guru 7642, $10. Best tight end at FanDuel. Between 4K and 5,500. Wouldn't you know it? I could share such things on the screen. Who's your favorite tight end? Spags. This is a $10 super chat. So this obviously deserves our utmost respect, attention, all of those things. $10. Best tight end on FanDuel between 4K and 5,500. Who is it for you?
Let's see. 4K and 5,500. Okay. I'm trying to sort by salary, but let's see. 4K, 5,500. It depends, I think, how much you like Drake Maye. If you like Drake Maye, I think Hunter Henry would be the option. Kyle Pitts at 4,900 would be mine, though.
Kyle Pitts or Hunter Henry. I like Hunter Henry quite a bit, 5,300 for him. It's the one guy that I like quite a bit on the New England side of things, and we'll get to at the tight end position as we move along. But thank you so much for the super chats. Matt, $2509, $1.99. Emmanuel Wilson or Wan'Dale Robinson PPR. It's got to be Wilson for me. Wilson!
Yeah, it's too big of a role that Jacobs has given up behind him. And even if he gets he should get the majority of the snaps, but even if touch-wise he gets 80% of that role, it's more valuable than Wan'Dale at this point. So I'd go with Wilson.
And D-Buff $1.99, same kind of deal. Monty or E. Wilson, going to be Wilson for me. He's got the backfield today.
Yeah, if you're playing something really, really chalky around it, Monty, I think the swap off of Wilson is a decent move. But if you're playing most lineups, Wilson's probably the better play.
All right, let's go to wide receiver here, Spags, where we have some expensiveness. That we could start our lineups with. Jackson Smith and Jigba, 9K. We got Amon-Ra St. Brown, 8K. We've got CeeDee Lamb, 7,900. That doesn't leave you a lot of popcorn left in the old bowl, but I don't know what that analogy was. That's the dumbest thing I've ever said. But 9K Jackson Smith and Jigba is a gigantic number. And you best believe I'm going to be overweight to it, my friend, because it is Jackson Smith-Njigba, and nobody wants to play him on these kind of weeks. Whereas, like, if the name was Chase Brown, or not Chase Brown, because that's a bad example. If the name was Jamar Chase at 9K today, the ownership would be there already. But for whatever reason, people just don't want to believe that Jackson Smith-Njigba is that dude. I want to remind you, Spags, Jackson Smith-Njigba is that dude.
Yeah, I'm above the field by a little bit on JSN. So I'm at 17%, fields at 15. So I could say that I support this take. I do think that, it is a get well spot. Again, Lofty and Ben talked about it, that, Darnold was so bad last week, getting the taste out of your mouth, kicking some ass this week with JSN would not be a crazy thing to do. But like, how much do you have to pass against Tennessee would be my concern point. Again, I'm afraid of the upside. He's been a data darling and Stokastic data every week coming up as like a priority play to some extent. So I'm not fully throwing him out the bathwater, especially given the ownership that's coming to Amon-Ra. If you can beat him out with JSN meaningfully, that'll give you a leg up in tournaments for sure. But like how much they have to throw against Tennessee, really, I think would be the issue I have with going nuts on him.
I really like the upside of what happens if they do. 15% for an absolute must-have slate breaker in how many situations this season?
Yeah, it's just, it's a negative pass rate team facing a situation where you don't have to do the pass rate as much. So that'd be my concern point from getting the upside, especially as a guy that doesn't have, generally massive red zone touchdown equity. He's kind of got to get there from deep, and, he can PPR his way there. But if they're ahead safely, you want to keep the bubble wrap on him because he's so important. Not that I'm ever worried about, blowouts in football like that, but again, I'm being with the field a little bit above it. Same thing for Amon-Ra, a little bit above the field. But I think these guys, like, they're pretty well covered ownership wise. And I think the mid tier maybe pays off more for a tournament.
All right. Well, wanted to definitely highlight him because just feels like there's a chance in small field he ends up like 10%. And that just sounds fun. So I've got some small field stuff that I'm playing, some of the 3 max stuff as well. And I think Jackson Smith-Njigba is just like the chances that he isn't sub like 15% relative to the chances Amon-Ra St. Brown is over 30% is like basically zero to me. Like Amon-Ra St. Brown is rightfully very chalky. I have a lot of him as well. Feel like I'm eating the chalk a lot more at the wide receiver position. This is kind of like opposite day for me. I don't think I've really done that all season long where wide receiver is, I guess other than last week with Michael Wilson, but that was a completely different situation. Mm-hmm. It was salary relief you absolutely had to have, but CeeDee Lamb, talked about him as more of a run back option. I don't think anybody's really clicking Dak Prescott's name today against the Eagles, but CeeDee, hopefully he didn't party in Dallas yesterday and that he gets the first snap of the game. That would be useful. Rashee Rice, Justin Jefferson, T. Higgins by himself now that Haktua occurred last week. Anybody stand out on your screen that you're getting over the field on?
I didn't know that Jamar Chase blew somebody. I didn't know that was why he was suspended. He was giving out blowies to Jalen Ramsey. That's how you fight anger with love, is that you give out a hawk to a guy that punched you or whatever. That's to get back on track. There's Rashee Rice coming up a lot in the sim. Sim loves Mahomes, so that's a big reason. Obviously, you're getting that correlation. But Rashee Rice in the sim coming up 24%. I'm lower there. I think that Rashee Rice is one of those guys where I get it when he's not going to be crazy chalk at 15% owned. You want to be there if you like Mahomes a lot. Getting him seems fair. Higgins is not getting the ownership this week. What are you doing with Higgins? Because if you're low on Chase Brown, I feel like thinking about more Higgins would not be a crazy thing to do.
Yeah, 18% Higgins right now, 13% ownership. I literally just pulled him up because I wanted to see the exact number that I had on him. And yeah, Higgins is definitely the guy I'm making the stand on. Justin Jefferson, rip, not enjoyable as a Viking fan, but Rashee Rice, that's the other guy that I think is pretty decent chalk here. CeeDee Lamb, he's definitely going to be in some of those stacks. And obviously it's an afternoon game, so I will have that change. The T. Higgins thing isn't going anywhere because we're obviously going to be locking in 12 minutes for that. I think without an opportunity there. And this is the other one that I'm just confused. Nobody wants to play Andre Yoshivas today. Nobody wants to play a 4,100 Andre Yoshivas, where we've seen multiple times when one of those two is out, he just steps into the wide receiver 2 position and just runs with it. We have a much more functional Joe Flacco than Browning, where Yoshivas had some big games last year, absent one of the two, mainly Higgins, who had the hamstring at that time. Why does nobody want to play Andre Yoshivas at all?
Honestly, this is one of your better points, I think, today. Is the
I don't get
Yoshivas
the Browns ownership or the Bengals ownership today. I just don't get it. It's completely inverted compared to where I expected it to be.
I mean, they're not cheap. Like, they definitely got priced to reflect Jamar Chase being out. But you're right, because like last year when Chase missed some time, it was Yoshivas basically taking over the Chase role entirely, and Higgins was still Higgins. Like, I think there's an assumption that Higgins takes over all Jamar Chase's stuff, but in reality, in the past they've ran Yoshivas the exact same route tree that Chase has, including some of the low ADOT stuff that does give you some easy PPR points. I got Yoshivas not even a little bit. Let's see if he came up in the sim here. He came up 4% in the sim. So you are getting some coverage if you're using the Stokastic sims today. But with my stuff I built before the show, I didn't get there. But it does feel like a blind spot. Yeah, like I barely played Higgins. So, I guess I'm not really leveraging anything against that. I think if you are playing Higgins at any amount, or if you're playing Flacco, and I'm playing some Flacco, surprised Yoshivas didn't come up at all. But yeah, I didn't get there, and people should get there a little bit.
I think you have to get there a little bit. It doesn't make any sense to me that nobody wants to take that shot. I think we're going to see some 12 that's just annoying with Jasicki and Fant out there, and we could see one of those two have a game. I can't really pinpoint who that's going to be. I probably end up a little bit more on the Fant side, but I don't think my lineups even really reflect that right now, so I don't want to say too much. It's just Yoshivas for me. I'm north of 15% on him. It makes no sense to me that nobody wants to play him, but such is life. We do have some other chalky options that exist on the cheap spot, and we've been covering wide receiver throughout this show, so I don't want to belabor it, because when you cover the quarterback, you're covering a lot of the stack partners. That's how this works. What are you doing with Wan'Dale Robinson? Because we do have Jameis Winston there. I was surprised to see the spread inflate 3 points or 2 points once we got Jackson Dart ruled out. That's a rookie who's had 7 starts at the NFL level, and he got a lot of respect. To have Jameis Winston, who's been a functional QB when called upon at times. I get it. We had the snow game last year. It's not like he's some winning quarterback. That's why he's a backup. But I look at this as kind of a one-for-one swap at this point in time. Weird to see odds makers do not feel that way, or market makers do not feel that way. But Wan'Dale Robinson, I'm having a tough time figuring out what to do with him in the last 9 minutes. What are you planning on for him today?
I'm a little bit above the field on Wan'Dale. It does seem like the sim is not a big fan, only 3% exposure, but because I did force some Jameis stacks today, I played him last week, and Jameis, for what it's worth, like, it was not a high pass rate spot for Jameis last week. This spot, you'd expect it to have to be a little bit higher because of the fact that Detroit should almost instantly be boots to asses with that Giants defense. So I would hope that for, how this looks for Jameis, it's better. But yeah, I think it's interesting to note too. I did see the spread move in favor. Jameis creates volatility on both sides for sure, but like Dart has not been an aggressive thrower, and Jameis, despite not dropping back a bunch, he was like really high in EPA metrics last week per drop back and per pass. Did not chuck it as much, and that's the weird part is, like, if he plays really good football like that, you kind of ruin some of the Jameis upside. But against Detroit, I feel like you're going to get you have to, I think, get Jameis back there more. So I'm surprised to see the 7 be low on him, but I think playing Wan'Dale, playing Slayton a decent amount. That was part of my hopes for Luke. Theo Johnson as well. Not playing Hyatt. I did play some Hodgins, but not a crazy amount because he doesn't project super well.
All righty. We've got some dusty options to carve through quick. Luther Burden, he's pulling a little bit of ownership, but maybe we see him ascend over Zacchaeus. I would have no problem whatsoever. We've got Andre Yoshivas. I covered him about as much as I possibly could. Greg Dortch, another opportunity for him is potentially the wide receiver too. Got there with the touchdown last week. Wasn't super impressive outside of that, but that's kind of the story of Greg Dortch at the professional level. In college, he was an absolute GOAT. We got Vile, Mr. Vile by himself, potentially as the wide receiver too, with no Brandon Cooks. He's now being shipped off God knows where. He has no job at the moment, but Devon Vile, that's an interesting one. Other cheapies that you want to highlight whatsoever, Spags, before we cover tight end?
Yeah, the Valet, I think I got a little bit of, but he did come up in a few lines with Shuck stuff. So I think that he's in play, and he should be able to get more work at this point. I think for me, it is those guys I mentioned before, the Jets guys, Mechie, AD Mitchell. They're not coming up super well in the Sims, but if you're playing Tyrod, you'll get them a little bit more. So I think those are guys to consider. Hopkins, again, on the Ravens side, played 40 snaps last week because, they're a little bit shorthanded. Bateman not going to play, it looks like. So I think for Hopkins, he's in a good situation against a bad defense. Hodgins, if you're playing Jameis, consider him. But yeah, I think the cheap tier for me, like Christian Watson has more upside with Matthew Golden. Like that tier coming up a little bit more above the super, for free guys at receiver, probably a better move. But I think there are playable guys if you are making lineups where you're like jamming in the stars. there are $3,300 guys you could play. Just, check the snap counts, make sure they're actually playing. And the Jets guys are all free, like legitimately all free. And if any of them hits, I think they might actually have tournament upside.
Ooh, I don't mind that. Yeah, I think rotating through the Jets, I don't know what to make of it. I just know they're super cheap. They fit into lineups where you're not punting at tight end and you move along your merry way. But it is tough to punt at tight end this week because Trey McBride exists. Again, just another week where Trey McBride's expected to have 7.5 catches in the marketplace. Another week where he's expected to just completely nuke. I don't know what to tell you. He is unfadable any given week. I'm over the field.
Yeah, I mean, for McBride, I'm getting 33% right now. Fields at 29, but like I made sure to get McBride in as many of my, my hand sim stuff, my single lineup sim stuff, all of that. I think with McBride, really the big thing is that he's playing number one, a zone heavy team. So that's something that's going to benefit a tight end always. But Trey McBride's getting targeted about 25% of the time that he's running a route versus zone, 21% versus man. So we have kind of the ideal Trey McBride spot and really most tight ends. McBride to me, though, really at this point, he's like matchup proof because of the fact that he's getting low ADOT targets for the most part. Really a yak guy, kind of like a Tucker Kraft. I don't know what this dog is doing. She loves hearing about Trey McBride.
He's a handsome fellow, I must say.
If I think to me, like the thing that a lot of people are going to do in lineups this week is play Wilson and McBride. If I had to make a guess, play McBride, take the upside, take the floor you have there, and don't be surprised if Wilson comes back down to earth meaningfully. But yeah, like to me, McBride is a very good play, and he should probably be 7,500. I think Lofty said he thought he should be like 8K. That feels like a lot for a tight end, but he's just the most reliable at the position every week.
Yep, he just dominates the position. And then Travis Kelce, I'm okay with the ownership, actually, which I didn't expect coming into this week. I'm a little bit below it, but I totally get it. It's 5K Travis Kelce. This is an absolute gotta have it game for Kansas City. Like, they have to have these games coming down the stretch. And it is not an easy schedule that they were given this season by any means. Having Rice out for the first 6 games was obviously a major inhibitor, but Kyle Pitts and where is he at? Dallas Goedert, 43 and 4,200 in that afternoon window. I really, really want to be paying close attention to ownership as we get close to lock of those games, purely because I could just see myself getting completely away from Kyle Pitts if the ownership gets steamed. And I don't think it's really going anywhere on Dallas Goedert. I love the idea of Jalen Hurts there in that afternoon window as well as kind of my expensive spend-up quarterback. I think you had talked about that as well. I think they're kind of the main guys to highlight purely because they're at the same price point, but otherwise kind of copy paste what I've said a lot this year, pairing them with pass catcher or with their quarterback. It like Theo Johnson, primarily going to be a Jameis Winston play for me. Mason Taylor, I can't imagine that anybody's going to play him, alongside Tyrod Taylor, but I still think for this week specifically, I'm primarily just playing Gesicki in those Joe Flacco lineups, playing Hunter Henry in Drake Maye lineups, not really playing any of these guys standalone.
Yeah, I think that's reasonable. And I look, sim-wise, I will say for anybody who's still building this last minute, you're getting like McBride, Kelce, or Pitts. I mean, you're getting a little bit of Juwan Johnson, at least in the sim that I just ran, a little bit of Gesicki, but it really is like that top 3 of McBride, Kelce, and Pitts. And, for Kirk Cousins, how he has looked visually, and I think the target shares bear it out as well, he just really looks for Pitts more than anybody else. There has been a lot of talk this week about getting Mooney the ball more, but New Orleans' defense in the secondary is bad enough that, like, they get Pitts going, they get Mooney going. Part of why I think Kirk might be able to hit this week is that if that double stack hits, people aren't there. But I think Pitts at 4,300, like if you're not playing McBride, he'd be the first guy I look at. And, certainly the field might feel that way as well. But yeah, in terms of like dumpster diving, not really going too far down here a ton besides Gesicki and Goddard, who you mentioned, I think is a good play if you're not going Pitts' way, especially if you're stacking Hurts. Like you said, Goddard's a strong play in that kind of build.
Yep, I feel the same way about that. Goddard, just like the piece getting a little bit different tight end. And obviously we'll have information on Trey McBride early, and that'll help me dictate what I want to do with Kyle Pitts and Goddard a little bit, because I do think Goddard, there's no chance he's really going to get steamed up relative to Kyle Pitts where they're at. And the rapport that people believe they have together, him and Kirk Cousins, even though I don't remember seeing it. Let's talk defense. As we round out this program, 2 minutes left, hit that like button. Browns or Raiders? One of you two idiots, please go off. That's all I'm going to ask. I just jammed these guys today. Raiders, Ashton Genty. Browns, not really Judkins for what it's worth, but like old school correlation, DFS, Spags. It's the week. It is the week for correlation defense. Go Raiders.
Yeah, I think the best sim defense, both for Stokastic and I think largely around the industry, is Saints D this week. It seems like the field and the chat also thinks Cousins sucks. He's not looked super good this year, but he's throwing decent catchable balls. And New Orleans pass defense is not good. So I'm cool moving away from Saints a little bit, but they do seem to be the top sim team. Raiders and Browns both came up a lot for me. I've got 33% Raiders, 15% Browns. So I think both sides of that equation appealing. Geno drops back a lot and has been a lot of ways the worst QB in football this year, even though other guys you could point to, he's so volatile and really creates a lot of production for defenses. If you can afford the Seahawks, I think they look good as well, playing that way instead of through some of the other Seahawks chalk, I think can be appealing. Tennessee might not be able to do anything today is entirely a possibility. But it's not really I don't think it's a great defense week. Nobody is really super fun.
We did have hi guys, will Rashid Shaheed be under 10% owned? Yes, he will. No chance that he's over that. We had best tight end of FanDuel. We already got all the super chats. We hit up everything. We were at lock in 10 seconds. I hope you got your lineups in. This was a fantastic show. It was high energy over on this lovely Sunday, November 23rd of the year of our Lord, 2025. Good times. We're at lock. That's Chris Spags. He's at Chris Spags over on X. He's also Chris Spags over on the Splash Play podcast. You got to check that out over on the YouTubes. I check it out in the NBA streets from time to time. I always just kind of am walking my dog or, I'm going getting lunch because it's in the nice afternoon window. If you're not tuning in and watching my friend Chris Spags, I don't know what you're doing because you're probably not doing anything on your lunch hour. Chris Spags, tell the people where to find you.
Yeah, check out my NFL content, my at Splash Play pod channel. I'll be on doing a showdown tomorrow, as I always do Mondays and Thursdays, Fridays main slate. My at Splash Play bets channel. Check out my NBA content as well, Monday to Friday at 2 p.m. doing that work on there. And I appreciate the kind words. And I feel like the chat we haven't gotten in a while. I thought his name was Aston Jency. That's why I'm playing so much. I'm so excited for this Aston Jency character this week. Chase Brown, who's that guy? Let's see what old Aston can do for me. The dog's trying to eat the puppet too. Just bye-bye.
Emac and Greg Ehrenberg, Sunday night, live before lock. Tune into the showdown. Bye.